Hello, hello out there, sports card investors and collectors. Welcome back. All right, we already have a few people on. Nice. Usually it takes about a minute, and then usually we have about 5 minutes of technical difficulties to work through on my end. I was actually blaming the guests last time, and it was me the whole time. But yeah, hey, everybody, thank you very much for joining. I've got Flipping Steve back on the show. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. Maybe we'll just kind of touch on just kind of, regular, generic or general hobby stuff. And then about 10, 15 minutes in, we're going to go ahead and, really get into NFL football. We've got the season coming up. It's a weird season because we don't really have a training camp. We haven't had a preseason. Typically when you're rolling up to the season, everyone that watches football knows that, you've got all these updates of the teams going, and really it's been, unless you're really searching for it, you're not really seeing a whole lot on ESPN and, these places. But we'll get into that. First off, I want to, kind of dig in with Steve. I know something that he was talking about in an earlier episode today on his channel is just kind of how basketball cards, soccer cards have dipped a little bit here over the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to just kind of hear his thoughts on it. Let's kind of expound on that and open up the conversation. And feel free to comment, in the chat. Feel free to throw out comments, and we'll talk to you as well there. But Steve, what are your thoughts on? I know we had talked a little bit about this before coming on, but I think you kind of saw this coming, to some degree, as far as basketball and soccer kind of softening, that market softening. What are your overall thoughts on it?
Don't panic, first of all. I think, it's just a trend. It always happens. Something else gains popularity. It's not the market as a whole. I mean, if it was the market as a whole, if nobody was buying anything, it'd be a little different. But you look at a lot of people are buying NFL cards. Baseball's pretty strong as well, especially with some of the guys that are playing really good. So money's being pumped into those markets. And basketball had so much hype coming in. It was everybody's sports fix when the playoffs started. So it not only had the hype of the NBA built into it, it also had the fact that nobody had anything up until that point, and they were looking so forward to it. And then, it's just happening, so it's like Christmas, it's like the hype before Christmas Day, and then Christmas Day comes and it's great, but it's almost the buildup is better, and
yeah.
And then you start looking forward to Easter, right? So, and then Christmas eventually rolls back around and it's exciting again. So that's kind of how I look at the sports market with the sports and things like that. And like I said, for myself, it's an opportunity to buy. It's become a buyer's market because if you're going to sell right now, you're really going to be in a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of undercutting, and people are going to drive the value of their own items down. If you want to sell anything right now, sell football, sell the stuff that's peaking, and move some of those assets around into some of the stuff that's actually becoming a little bit more affordable. I mean, if you wanted Giannis rookies, the time to start moving is now or soon. I mean, he's got a slight injury. Don't know if he's going to play. They're probably going to be eliminated. And people who got in on those at high prices, like $5,000 and $6,000, are going to be panicking.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. For folks that got in high, kind of hoping it would go higher, it could very well go higher. But you're right. I mean, it's going to be, once, it's kind of like what happened with Luka. Once they're out of the playoffs, you see a little bit of a sag. And that'll be really interesting to see with Giannis. And then again, of course, there's going to be all sorts of speculation as to whether or not he's going to stay in Milwaukee. Is he going to join another team where he can win a championship? Et cetera, et cetera. If he goes to the Lakers or he goes somewhere, what's that going to do? Of course, like the hype is going to make his stuff explode probably if he goes to like the Lakers, for example. But it'll be really interesting. Do you think that football, so the football, you mentioned it. I mean, card prices have gone way up for NFL stuff and, way up for skill players outside of, QBs, which is something that we have not seen. I've been talking with a lot of people. I remember last year, and I'm sure you probably remember this too. So last year, Mahomes stuff and Lamar Jackson stuff skyrocketed, but Christian McCaffrey had a great season. His stuff didn't do much of anything. Christian McCaffrey's stuff didn't move. So for all the people that keep saying, like, oh man, we're going to have a week between each game and there's going to be overreactions, underreactions, et cetera. I am so interested in seeing how that actually does pan out, if it does pan out like that. And I think it very well could happen, just because the card market is very different today than it was 12 months ago as far as interest. But I'm really, really interested in seeing that, because that's just not how it played out last year.
Yeah. And in football, when it comes to investing, and I've done football for a while, it's not the type of market where you buy today and you flip tomorrow or 2 or 3 days from now, because like basketball, they play all the time. You can flip a guy within 3 days, believe it or not, if they put together 2 good games. In football, the way I tend to approach it is I pick a couple guys that I think are going to make long season, are going to make runs. They're going to be in the playoffs and things like that. It's more of a seasonal hold on football than it is I'm looking to flip every week, or I'm looking to flip every 3 or 4 days. I'm going to go in with a couple guys that I have a lot of confidence in that are going to play long into the season and be in the playoffs. That's what I look for in football. It's more so I got to wait. I'm at least holding, 15, 16 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're trying to sell. What was really funny is last season, I ended up selling a lot of Mahomes stuff leading up to the Super Bowl, because I was thinking, like, look, this is it. Like, this is the time to sell, this is the time to get rid of this stuff. And, after the Super Bowl, prices actually went down. And then I think that's when kind of all the COVID stuff hit, all the money kind of came in, the demand went way up, April, May, and his stuff went through the roof. So it's just funny trying to time some of it doesn't always work out. But yeah, no, it'll be, and now, this is something I was just thinking about this. Do you know if they actually expanded the playoffs? Because it was, it's a top 6 teams from each side go. But I remember them saying in the new CBA, they were going to add a 7th team. Do you know if they did that this year?
I think they were adding a wild card team. I think it was going to happen this year. I can't tell you 100%. I've actually been a little bit behind on my NFL as far as keeping up with the news. I've had 3 fantasy football drafts, and this is the worst year that I've had as far as mock drafts and following players, which is crazy, because being into the cards and the investing and stuff, you would think I would be really on top of it even more so. But usually I put so much work into my fantasy football drafts, and I felt like I didn't do any kind of research this year. So
I feel like we haven't been talking about it. I think it's kind of, are they going to have a season? There's no preseason. I mean, there's just nothing.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with not seeing the mini camps and not seeing the preseasons and things like that. You're just now getting tuned in, and opening day is Thursday, or kickoff is Thursday. So you're like, man, it's really snuck up on me.
Are you looking towards? Are you going to buy into Mosaic Football? It's going to release on the 11th. I saw the preview for it. I mean, I love how the cards look. Mm-hmm. I think as a collector, I want to have some of those. I'm very interested in, Burrow stuff in a pro uniform. And, I think I might actually, and I don't do breaks very much. I did one with you, and I've done a couple other ones. But, I mean, I might buy into some breaks just for fun, and, see what happens.
Probably my favorite wax to buy is NFL. I don't know why. I just enjoy busting NFL more than I do anything. I don't open a lot of packs, but when I do, it's NFL. I think it's because growing up, NFL was the main thing that I did. So if I'm going to get nostalgia out of busting packs, it comes from football. I was never really a big basketball collector when I was younger. And so opening basketball packs is just not as fun, because I can, I like pulling an old vintage or an old school auto or something out of a football pack of a player that I used to like to watch, that a lot of people may not even heard of these days.
Yeah.
And when I did collect, position players did hold value. I mean, I go back to, Barry Sanders, 89 score. The 89 score set was awesome.
Yeah.
And like the Marshall Faulk you showed on your video earlier, that card, I saw that card. You brought that card up, and I was like, I would love to have that card, because
I love it.
Marshall Faulk was 1,000, man, and so those players are the guys that I really like. Jerry Rice, his cards always have value. They still do, which was surprising to me when I got back in here years later, that it was all quarterbacks. Now you are starting to see the growth into the other position players. But when I got back in, I was buying a bunch of position players by accident.
Steve,
You know?
I bought an Art Monk rookie card the other day.
Yeah.
Like I'm all over, I'm looking at top 50 players and, ever, type list.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going through it and I'm thinking, and then I'm going to kind of which sets, I like. I really love the look of a lot of the 70s basketball and football cards, even though that was before my time, really. I mean, I think I've told you that 89 score set is like the one that's like my weakness. It's the one as a kid where I couldn't afford the packs. I got a lot of Pro Set because Pro Set was $1 a pack, and you could get it anywhere. You could get the tops, you could get all that stuff really easily. But yeah, the score stuff, you had to go to the card shop and it was $4 a pack. It was $4 a pack in 89, 90.
And like the Pro Set, the Pro Set is really nostalgic to me because I could just get that at the grocery store and pulling those Barry Sanders in his collegiate uniform and Dion with the Florida State. He's about to catch the ball. I remember the photos on all of them. Troy Aikman. And sometimes you could get like a rare card. I remember like the Pete Rozelle commissioner card was in there. And and there was like a Lombardi holographic trophy card that everybody was trying to get. And there was even like a William Refrigerator Perry error card. I remember that as a kid being like, I want the fridge error card, but I don't even know what the error on it was. It was just
I remember
you saw it in the Beckett magazine worth a whole lot of money. And you're like,
that's exactly what I was going to say. I don't even know. I don't remember which set it was, but I remember in Beckett, I would always scan down and the one that was like, it's like 10 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents. And then you hit that card that's like $8 and you're like, what the heck is that? And I remember the fridge error card was one of those.
Error card.
What are your thoughts on this? Is just kind of sidebar going off on a little bit of a tangent, but what are your thoughts on kind of like those, the 1990, like the Deion Sanders rookie cards that were very like, I mean, it's junk wax era stuff that were printed, but there's, in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of PSA 10s. And then, now granted, there's probably a lot of them in binders somewhere, but how many of those do you think, would grade out as a 10, if those got hot and people were like, you know what, I'm sending all my Barry Sanders in to get graded. And of course, supply goes up. So that could suppress pricing. But it's like, how many of those realistically are going to get a 10 after 30 years in a binder or something? I mean, maybe they would. I don't know. But I'm curious on your thoughts because I bought some of those recently, but I haven't gone in and bought, loads of them.
Right. Anytime I feel like, and the junk wax era, this, that, and the other, but those cards are condition sensitive. Whether they're 30 years old or fresh out of the pack, they're condition sensitive.
Centering was always an issue.
Centering the corners, because the corners are colored. They're like green borders and things like that. It doesn't take much to get some fuzz on a corner on one of those. Yeah. And in nines, I talked about PSA 9s recently on some, actually a junk wax era card, which was a Shaquille O'Neal card, but just the pop reports, I don't care if it's a junk wax era card or not. When you look at the amount of submissions in comparison to the amount of those that are coming out as 9s or better, it's still a rare card, regardless of what the print run on it is.
Yeah.
And when you're buying a 9, you're buying a mint card. I mean, that's mint. Gem mint is just always a step above. When you're a card collector, especially back in the day, you're looking for a mint card. Is that card in mint condition? That's what the question always was. And if you got a Hall of Famer or somebody that's one of the best of all time and a mint 9, to me, that's a good card. I mean, I guess it depends on if you're looking to buy and sell and make lots of money, or if you're looking for cards that you just really like.
Yeah.
And I think that these cards can definitely have value. I actually am steering away from some of the new stuff in all sports and going back to some of the older players just because it brings me more enjoyment. And I also think that there's about to be a slight, I don't want to say boom, but I think there's going to be a slight uptick on people. And I don't even want to say vintage, because vintage, the definition of vintage, I guess, is like maybe pre-1970. But I'm looking anywhere.
Varies, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking from like anywhere, but the early 80s to the 90s stuff,
Bronze Age.
I think there could be a slight boom on some of that stuff. I know it tried to happen with McGuire and them because of the documentary or whatever, but those aren't the cards that I'm looking at. I'm looking at cards of players that people really would like to have in their collection. Personally, right now, I'm looking at like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson stuff.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I don't have loads of their stuff, but I have been buying kind of those late 80s stuff are really inexpensive, like the 87 Fleer and the 88 Fleer stuff for them. In fairly high grades is not very expensive, and they're just nice cards.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've been picking up some of that stuff as well. All right, I'm going to jump over to the comments. We'll get into some football talk. Drake has a hot take here with, I love Deshaun Watson as MVP this year. Thoughts? Deshaun Watson is the MVP, man? So for those that don't know, I'm throwing you under the bus, Drake. You're a Saints fan, and I don't understand how in the world you picked Watson as being MVP this year. I'm only kidding, man. Watson
He
is
must have him on his fantasy team.
yeah, exactly. No, Watson's an animal. I just worry, honestly, with him, I just worry about him. He will stand in the pocket and get annihilated and take hits, and I'm just worried about him staying healthy. I think that's the big thing. Whereas like a Mahomes will kind of like, yeah, he'll take a hit every once in a while, but he doesn't, he skirts around and he's very elusive. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Watson?
I like his talent. I don't like his surroundings. I was actually hoping he wasn't going to extend, but he signed a big extension. I thought a change of scenery is what's going to be necessary for him to take the next step as far as Super Bowl. Will he put up good stats? He'll have a good stat line at the end of the year, but it's always going to be wins and losses that determines an MVP. You can have great numbers, but you have to win some games too. And Houston, I don't know how much I like that offensive line. I don't know how much I like David Johnson there as the running back. And when you lose somebody like DeAndre Hopkins as a quarterback, not only his talent, but the chemistry that they had, that's pretty tough. They did bring in Brandon Cooks, but again, he'll probably spend half of the year in concussion protocol just because that's what he always does. And
I agree.
I don't know. There's just a lot more teams in the AFC that I like. Chiefs and Ravens. I mean, the AFC is tough. It's nothing against Deshaun Watson as the player, because again, I think he's a great player.
No, I agree with you. I think
it's more of a situational thing.
The talent gap is just too tight in the NFL. And you're right. I just don't think he has enough weapons around him, especially when, they got rid of, they basically traded a top 3 wide receiver away. So I don't know how you're
the thing about Watson, I don't know if he's ever really been 100%. Even when he plays, he's always had sore ribs or something. He takes a hit, this, that, and the other. Of course, the knee when he was a rookie. He's tough. He'll play through it. And he made a hell of a play to beat the Bills in the playoffs last year when he spun away from that sack. I just don't know how he did it. So, yeah, he's a playmaker, but he also throws caution to the wind sometimes, takes some hits.
Yeah, I mean, he will stand in the pocket to get that pass off. They played week 1 against the Saints, the Texans did, and we beat them on a last-second drive, but they lit us up, and it was these were plays that should not have happened. We were literally like 0.01 seconds away from sacking him. He just stood in the pocket and then threw a laser, to Hopkins for 50 yards and, almost beat us. So, it's wild. So let's stay in that division. So we're going to go kind of division by division. We're talking about the Texans. So let's talk about the other teams in the division: Titans, Jags, Colts. Who is winning that division in your mind?
I'm going to give it to the Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I mean, they just added Clowney as well. So yeah, I mean they're pretty stacked. I think the Colts are going to be tough too. But I'm just not a believer in Phillip Rivers at this stage of his career. I think he's great. I mean, I love Rivers, but I just think that, I don't think that they're going to overcome the Titans. And then you've got Gardner Minshew. Don't count out the Jags down there.
Yeah, I think the Titans are just too well-rounded and well-coached. They play good defense. They run the ball. They do what you have to do at the end of the season. It doesn't matter how good of a passing team you are, how many points you score during the regular season. Once you get into the postseason, you have to be able to run and you have to be able to play defense. And that's what they do well, and they're disciplined. They don't make a lot of stupid penalties. How many times have you seen a great team lose a game on a stupid penalty or on a bad call or not get a call, like the Saints? But or they I know, but
it's got theory.
they're just well-disciplined, well-coached. if Tannehill can manage the games, which he did well last year, so we'll see. They got a good young receiver in A.J. Brown, who is, going to come into his own. I think Jonnu Smith is a good tight end. I think their offense is actually going to be able to spread the field a little bit more and make it that much easier for Derrick Henry. You can't double cover these guys. You have to put men in the box. So, or Derrick Henry's going to eat you alive.
Yeah, I like the Titans. Vrabel is a great coach. He showed that last season when he outwitted the man, the Sith Lord, Belichick. It was kind of honestly, I'm still in shock that they lost that playoff game. I think everyone watching that game was thinking the Patriots are going to somehow win this game because they always win. The Titans have amazing coaching. We do have a question here from David's Business. Are you folks going to pick up a few rookie prisms of N'Keal Harry with the Patriots now that Cam is starting? I'm going to go first. Now, again, because I've watched Cam in the NFC South for a long time, I think that he has incredible talent when healthy, but honestly, I have not seen him play. I don't feel like we've seen him play elite football for 3 years, really. So, there's just so much proving that we have to see with him. He has serious injuries with the shoulder and the lower body stuff. They're not any, injuries to sneeze at. He's tough as nails, Cam is, but I just have to see it before I can believe it. And not to say that he won't have a resurgence with the Patriots, but he hasn't played a full season in years, so, and I don't know. So I'm going to hold off on Patriots stuff. I don't own any Cam Newton stuff either. What are your thoughts on the Patriots stuff, Steve?
N'Keal Harry played last year. I know he was injured some. He also struggled picking up the Patriots offense. He struggled with the playbook. So he was in and out of the lineup just because he was in and out of favor with the coach. You know how hard it is, or you know how easy it is to fall out of favor with Bill Belichick if you miss an assignment. So as a rookie, he had some road bumps. He's pretty talented, but I don't think his situation's any better than last year. You bring in Cam Newton. He had Tom Brady throwing the ball to him last year. Is Cam Newton more accurate? Can he deliver the ball better than Brady? He never has been, not even in his prime. Even in his prime, even in his MVP years, and when they went to the Super Bowl, he wasn't an accurate passer.
Right.
He had some good numbers. He had touchdowns. He had lots of rushing yards. But he will sail the ball on somebody on a 10-yard crossing pattern in a heartbeat. He's just never been an accurate passer. Strong arm, but accuracy's always been his downfall. So in a short type offense that they run, where they do the little underneath patterns and things like that, I don't really think that actually favors a quarterback like Cam Newton or a wide receiver like N'Keal Harry as more of a downfield type guy. That's why Edelman has excelled in that offense, and guys like James White and even their tight ends, no matter who it was, because those underneath routes, those little short, quick hitting timing routes is what the Patriots have always run. I just don't think it fits Cam Newton or N'Keal Harry's type play style.
I'm really interested in seeing kind of if Belichick changes their offensive plans with a Cam Newton, because obviously he's a different QB than Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Brady's a traditional drop back passer. Cam Newton is a runner. But with Cam Newton being injured, is he going to be a running QB, or is he going to be more in the pocket? The Patriots are literally. This year's Patriots team is the most mysterious team in recent memory. Who knows what you're going to see on Sunday? Does anybody have any clue? They've got a bunch of new players. I don't know. I'm really excited to see the season because it's not even just with the Patriots, but with all teams. Like you said, there's no preseason. There's not, really been any news about it. We're just going to basically show up on Sunday to watch the game and see what we've got. It's going to be weird, The
other thing I think that's going to be a big factor is no crowd. You have a lot of teams that really feed off their crowd. New Orleans, Seattle. These teams that don't lose home games. There's teams that can be terrible on the road, but because they're so good at home, they make the playoffs. Does this mean a team like Seattle, instead of going 7-1 at home or 8-0 at home, is now a 4-4 or 5-3 team at home? Because that could really make a big difference. When it comes down to the playoff run, and there's lots of teams that feed off home field advantage, and there's some teams that just win. It doesn't matter where they're at, but
So one thing I did see is that they are allowing the Saints. Now, I assume this is for all the teams, but they're allowing, I guess, 70 decibels of crowd noise. They're going to pump crowd noise into the Superdome.
Okay.
They're allowing 70 decibels, which the Superdome gets up to 105, 110 decibels, and Seattle gets loud as well. But I kind of like that though, because at least there'll be some noise. I mean, at least like when you're watching the game, it'll kind of feel like a game, not just,
Right.
the stadium where guys are yelling at each other. I mean,
Yeah, I heard a rumor, and I'm not 100% sure, but I heard this actually through somebody in my fantasy draft last night. It was in Miami. They were actually going to allow some crowd in there. I'm not sure how true that is, but I heard that in Florida, because Florida is really lenient on their COVID restrictions.
Yeah, I saw Jerry Jones saying he plans on having a full stadium, and this was literally like 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, I think Miami was going to go at 33% crowd or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they would dictate that, but
yeah,
it might be.
All right, what are your thoughts? We got another question. David's Business. Do you folks think Le'Veon Bell could have a good season this year with the Jets? I am not high on Le'Veon Bell, but in big part because I'm just not high on the Jets in general. Sorry, Gary V and all the Jets fans out there, but I just can't get past, and also their division. I mean, first off, I think the Patriots are not going to be terrible. I think the Bills are going to be good. And then I think the Dolphins are actually going to be pretty decent too. So I just think they're kind of at the lower end of the division. I think Bell's going to get a lot of touches. I just don't know what he's going to be able to do with them.
Yeah. I just honestly think regardless of the situation, first of all, the situation can't really be any worse because he's on the Jets. They really didn't do much to better themselves. They drafted a rookie wide receiver. I look for Sam Darnold to progress a little bit because he was showing some good signs last year. However, as a whole, I think they're going to be down a lot, so that's going to take away from rushing attempts. They're going to be in passing mode a lot. And I think Le'Veon Bell's best years are just behind him. It's just the nature of the game and the harsh reality of aging and injuries. He's not just a little bit older. He has a lot of mileage and a lot of injuries on him. I mean, Pittsburgh ran him into the ground.
Yeah.
And he was hurt a lot. He was even hurt coming out of college. That's why he fell in the draft. So I don't even know if he'll have a healthy season, to be honest. I could see them going backfield by committee. I mean, I know he's the workhorse type back, but, I remember when LaDainian Tomlinson started wearing down too.
Yeah.
And,
man, that was a huge difference too with LT. I mean, he was unstoppable, and then he just reached an age where you could see it. You could just see the difference, and it was sad. But just because you see those guys so elite, and then it changes.
And Le'Veon Bell's running style just doesn't fit the Jets. Okay, Adam Gase is bad. Everybody knows Adam Gase is bad. But when Pittsburgh was more of the type of offensive line where you could pick and choose and be a patient runner because they open holes for you by design, where the Jets' offensive line is a hammer forward, boom forward, push the pile, things like that. It's not, okay, dance behind, wait for something to develop and hit the hole. And that's what Le'Veon Bell's a very patient runner, and that fit his style. He's not a big-time downhill runner like the Jets try to play. So, like I said, with the age, the team, injuries, past injuries and things, the head coach.
While we're talking about that, actually, with guys that have been injured, do you think that David Johnson could have a resurgence with the Texans? I picked up a few of his rookie cards. Honestly, like I went and looked at his, what are they, 2015 Prisms or 16 Prisms? And they were like $8 shipped, and one of them was like numbered red or something, and I was like, you know what, I'll just pick up a handful of these, take a flyer on David Johnson, because he did have that one season where he exploded. He had, I think it was his rookie year. He was lights out, and then he's just been injured ever since and just kind of been battling. What are your thoughts on Johnson? I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think right now, I mean, if we're talking about cards, if there's anybody who's a decent price point right now, that's what you want to buy because everything is so high right now. If you can find a David Johnson, he's reasonably priced, that might be worth the gamble. As far as playing, he is coming to, a new division. The teams that we're talking about, Jacksonville, Indy, who has a really good defense. I don't know so much about Jacksonville. And Tennessee, who has a really good defense. So they're going to be seeing those teams, twice a year. he comes into a little bit of a better situation as far as the quarterback play goes. Nothing against Kyler Murray. I just don't think he's ever played with a quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson. That doesn't mean that Kyler Murray won't ascend to Kyler Watson or to Deshaun Watson status. He just wasn't last year.
I agree.
So, they're going to stretch the field. They got Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, who are two guys who can burn on the outside. So it'll keep the defense honest. It's really going to be what kind of shape is he in, because last year he seemed like he was out of shape. He seemed like he had put on some weight. His burst wasn't there. He looked at times like he was running in place. I don't know how much that had to do with past injuries or just being out of shape. And he was losing that starting job before he was even hurt. Chase Edmonds was getting play, and as soon as they saw a player like Kenyon Drake hit the trade block, it was over.
Yeah, I've had some fun, honestly, and I've talked about it in some of my episodes recently, but and like you said, football cards have gotten really expensive for the high end, the Christian McCaffreys of the world. But it's kind of fun to take flyers out on guys like a David Johnson. Yeah. You're not really spending a lot of money on like rookies. There's a lot of those guys out there that, it's like, for a few bucks, why not? And so that's where I've had some fun with football recently. It's not really buying the established guys. It's more just taking flyers out on guys that no one's really paying attention to and seeing what happens.
That's all I'm doing in football right now. Like I said, I'm selling all the high-end stuff just because it's so expensive. I am buying, but I'm only buying flyers in hopes that, I catch one. If I catch one out of four, then I'm well off with how the market is going.
All right, so we've got a question. It's specific to you. I know I asked this last live stream, but I was wondering Steve's thoughts on Russell Wilson as a QB and investment.
He's an amazing quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the top 3 again for the MVP vote or MVP running this year. He's expensive, though. I mean, as an investment, if you're in on him, that's awesome because he's already a good investment as far as his 2012 Prisms is a crazy card right now. It's way surpassed the Topps Chrome. The Topps Chrome was kind of setting the bar. And, of course, with the craze of Prism across all sports, the 2012 Prism it is a really expensive card now. So for me, I can't invest in him just because it's too much to get in. I don't know. At the price point that he's at, this is when you got to start asking yourself, what will cause this card to go up in value? Because, he's got a Super Bowl win. He may have an MVP. I can't remember all of his accolades. I just know he's been really good. That's already built into the price of that card. So what now can make that card to even ascend what it is? Are you talking about a Hall of Fame induction? If so, that's a long-term hold. How much will Hall of Fame even affect? And by the time the Hall of Fame for someone like Russell Wilson comes around, will the card market still be hot?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for a lot of those guys, if it is a current player that is going to be a long-term hold for you, maybe it makes more sense to just wait for the market to cool off, years down the road and pick that card up. Because like Steve is saying, unless he wins a Super Bowl, then you're probably going to see a minimal bump and you're already going to spend a lot of money on the rookie cards. You're just his stuff is not cheap. Maybe that's something for down the road. I agree with Steve on that.
Yeah. I mean, with a guy, an established player like Russell Wilson, it's already expected for him to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. He's expected to throw for 4,000 yards. He's expected to have 30 touchdowns. That stuff is already expected. So when you don't reach expectations, now you're looking at a dive. And even if he reaches those expectations, it's already expected. So what's the one thing that may not be expected? A Super Bowl victory or a league MVP. Could he win a league MVP? He could be in the top 5. But you got to look at some of the other quarterbacks right now that are ahead of him as far as MVP goes.
There's just so much QB talent in the league right now. It's insane. I mean, if you look, has there ever been this much QB talent in the NFL? I don't think that there has been. I would argue that there hasn't been.
And that's the thing. That's why it's been hard for free agents to find jobs, is because there's more of a supply of quarterbacks than there is a demand in the NFL. It's crazy. And it's because of the drafts. The 2018 draft, I think it had 5 first rounders, and 4 of them have been productive. I mean, the worst 2 have been Josh Rosen, who hasn't really gotten a chance, and Sam Darnold. The other 3 Well, Baker, I mean, he's got a job. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, that's 5 guys in one draft, 4 of them who are starters in the league. And then last year, Kyler Murray, Drew Lock, those guys have come out, they're starting. You don't normally see rookies come right in and become starters, and that's what's happening. Rookies coming in and being instant starters is causing it hard for free agents to get jobs.
I mean, think about go back to 1989 when Troy Aikman was a rookie, and the Cowboys were terrible. The Cowboys won 1-15 his rookie season. They weren't much better the next season, and then in his third season, then they started to get better. They started to get good. I mean, if you think about that compared to today's NFL, would Troy Aikman have ever been Troy Aikman if he was drafted today? Probably not. I don't think that he would have gotten a shot. I mean,
by year 2, he would have been labeled a bust, and they would have been looking elsewhere.
Yeah,
because the NFL has become a win now league.
Yeah, it's wild. All right, we have another. I like these questions about Gardner Minshew. What do you guys think about Gardner Minshew, and do you think the Jags are going to hold on to the Minshew magic after the season, or will they draft someone new? This is kind of a fun guy to speculate on, but again, he plays just on the worst team in his division. So on the plus side, his stuff is inexpensive, and so you're not really, you're not really putting out a lot of resources to get Gardner Minshew cards. But on the other hand, it's just he's just got such an uphill battle. He does have the hype behind him with the Minshew magic and the mustache and everything else he's got going. I went to a Jags Saints game last year, and everyone's wearing like a Minshew mustache, and the guy's like a rookie. He's already a rock star, and he hasn't done anything yet. So I like the hype around him. I mean, there is definitely, they love him there in Jacksonville, but the only way they're going to continue to love him is if he somehow wins games, and I guess that's the upside for him. He just plays for the worst team in the division. So if he is able to make something happen there, then I mean, I guess he could get a boost. So I mean, if you're looking to speculate, it's kind of like what we're talking about with some of these newer guys. If you're okay, throwing $50 at a handful of Minshew cards, then then great. But if you're looking for that, there's no guarantees. Obviously, these are it's not Russell Wilson's or Drew Brees's or whatever. I mean, it's you're speculating.
Right. And like I said, this is where football is slightly different than the other markets. In baseball, you can be the home run leader and be on the worst team in the league, and you're going to have value. In basketball, you can average 30 points a night and be on the worst team, Trae Young, and you can have value. In the football, you have to win. It doesn't matter if you pass for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. If your team is a loser, your cards aren't going to hold that much value. And you can be an average game managing quarterback that just wins some games and plays well, and your cards will see value. Ryan Tannehill, for example. That team eliminated New England and Baltimore from the playoffs. Nobody saw that coming, and his cards shot through the roof. And if you look at his numbers, they weren't that high in those games. He threw, he barely even had any pass attempts, to be honest. So winning and production go hand in hand, or have to coincide with each other for NFL cards to really have a lot of value, because people just don't pay attention to you when you're on a losing team. Yeah,
agreed. All right, question: Jordan Love or Tua? Who is a better buy? Who would you buy? This of course is tricky because obvious speculation, because these guys are rookies. I just saw, I think yesterday, that Tua is not going to start. I think Fitzmagic is going to get the nod for the Dolphins. That guy always comes up big. He's incredible. I kind of like Jordan Love as a long-term prospect, and I'm sure I have to assume his stuff is not going to be very expensive. But what I would do though is wait until next season to get Jordan Love stuff. So wait for all of his pro rookie stuff, none of the draft pick stuff, obviously. But when all the pro uniform sets that come out this year, and just wait until next offseason. And that's probably when I would look at a Love or a Tua if I was prospecting for those guys. That's probably, just because I think once those come out, those products are going to be super popular. Everybody's going to want to have it. I think I'd rather just wait until that next offseason.
Yeah, you can't buy these guys now because they're already priced like superstars. So you're spending superstar prices on a long, I'm not going to say a long shot, but on a speculative pick. And you're right to that. everything cools off in the offseason. We're seeing it with basketball and soccer right now, even with the best players. And everybody will be hyped for next year's draft class. That's the best time to get in on the previous year's draft class. The best time to buy some of these basketball players is going to be when, everybody's talking about LaMelo. Okay, well, I'm going to go back and buy Ja Morant now. Just because, the buzz is gone on some of these guys. But if you believe in them long term, they're a good buy because eventually the talent shines through and the talent overtakes the buzz. In the beginning, it's just the buzz and they're playing well. But when they become superstars and all-stars and things like that, legitimate players, they don't need buzz to drive their cards. Now, personally, I think Tua will be the better quarterback just because, I'm a Dolphins fan, but that's not why. But anyway, I just think if he stays healthy, he'll be the best quarterback. If he was healthy, he would have been the number 1 draft pick. He would have been drafted higher than Burrow.
Well, and remember,
I think he's in a good situation.
I think the other thing too is if you're flipping these cards, you need to remember. I mean, Jordan Love might not see the field for 2 years from now. So I mean, like you also have to keep that in mind. I mean, if you're okay buying his stuff fairly inexpensively, maybe next offseason, and then holding it for another year or 2 years, and then selling when he's a starter when Rodgers is wrapping up, then great. But just keep that in mind. I mean, his stuff might not move for 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, if you're someone that's buying and flipping, that might not be ideal for you.
My take on Jordan Love, I'm just not big on him. I'm not big on him long term. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me because there's a lot of Packers fans out there that love Love. And to me, he's not in a very quarterback developmentally friendly system. He's got Aaron Rodgers there. That's already polarizing. Their head coach is run first. That's another reason why Rodgers doesn't necessarily get along with. Can't remember his name there for a second. He's skipping my mind, but
Ted Thompson? Is it the GM, Ted Thompson? Or
no, the head coach of Green Bay.
The new guy. Yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't think of his name, but it's going to bug me now. But anyway, when Brett Favre came in there, he was raw talent. Brett Favre was raw as can be, but he had a rocket ship for an arm. And he had coaches there like Andy Reid, to develop him.
Oh, yeah, John Gruden and Andy Reid.
Yeah, all those guys, the quarterback gurus were all there to develop these young players coming in. Aaron Rodgers stepped in. These guys were developed. I don't see that in place for a guy like Jordan Love, who I consider to be raw. I consider him to be a very raw quarterback. He has the talent there, but I don't see the system there or the coaches there to develop him. Now, maybe they'll bring somebody in, maybe they won't. I don't know. But he's not falling into that same situation that like Favre and Rodgers fell into because those coaches aren't there. These coaches have gone elsewhere, and they got great. Like Andy Reid's got Patrick Mahomes. He's been developing him.
Yeah.
So I just think if they can find somebody to harness his talent and coach him, but I'm just not big on Jordan Love personally.
Yeah, and I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, I didn't watch enough of him in college to really have a great, viewpoint on him. I saw some highlights, but highlights don't really mean much. I saw highlights at the draft, which really mean nothing. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not really, it's not that I'm not sold on him, but I'm not sold on him. Yeah, I just don't know enough about him. And I think Rodgers is going to be there for another couple of years. So I just don't, it's not even worth me thinking about until at least a year from now, if I was ever going to buy Jordan Love cards in my mind.
No, we got help. I think it's LaFleur. Is it Matt LaFleur?
Yes, Matt. Yeah, Matt Stein.
I don't know how I forget because I have a buddy of mine that likes the Packers, and I always call him LaFleur, like from Dodgeball. It's like LaFleur.
LaFleur. All right, let's move to the NFC South. So obviously, where I stand with the Saints as a Saints fan, but I'll tell you the one team that I think is going to be better than people perceive is the Atlanta Falcons. And I think they're kind of getting forgotten because the Bucs have built the super team behind Tom Brady. They're the obvious favorites, and maybe the Saints are kind of probably second to the Bucs right now. But the Falcons, the one thing that always stands out to me, if you look at the last 2 seasons for them, Dan Quinn, their coach, is a defensive-minded coach. He came from Seattle. He came from the Seattle teams that won Super Bowls. That won the Super Bowl. So this guy is a defensive guru, and really, he's built really good defensive teams that are always injured. I mean, literally, and we've gotten lucky, as the Saints have gotten lucky, to where they just face a team that's beat up. The last 2 seasons. I just think that if they can stay healthy, if Julio Jones is healthy, Calvin Ridley is coming into his own. I know they lost Austin Hooper, but if they can keep Matt Ryan off of the ground and not get, because that's the other part, is the defense has been injured and their line has been beat up to where they just can't hold up. But I think that that's a team in the NFC South that's not really getting a lot of attention, but could surprise some people. What are your thoughts overall on the NFC South?
Let's see. Matt Ryan, he needs to be a little more consistent. And I don't know if that could be, faulty offensive line. But he's had the weapons. So, there's games where Matt Ryan will go light it up for 3 or 4 touchdowns, and there's games where he'll pass for 160 and 2 interceptions.
And so invisible. Yeah, exactly.
And with those kind of weapons around him, like he has to be a little bit more consistent. Like back to his earlier years, I actually feel like he's regressed. And they get put in the situation where they have to pass a lot because their defense couldn't keep them in games, and then you become predictable, and the other team can just tee off on the quarterback. So I get that. I don't think Todd Gurley was much of an upgrade.
Agreed.
He can run between the tackles. However, I think they're already only talking about giving him 16 touches a game. So you're already talking about the same situation that he was in with the Rams, where they're just not going to run him. And he's the type of running back that needs run to be productive. 16 touches for a guy that has to pound the rock, he needs more touches to wear the defense down. And if they can't stay in games, he's not going to get the touches. And if he's, got the knees, he's already not going to get the touches. Julio Jones is another year older.
Yeah.
He was supposed to hit that wide receiver wall last year, and it didn't happen. You're just waiting for it. Calvin Ridley's developing. I do like the Hayden Hurst pickup. He's probably he may even be better than Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper's a really good blocker that turned into a good receiver, but Hurst is a good downfield tight end.
We got some guys that are Gurley fans in the chat. So I'm kind of with you, and the one thing I will say, Troy, and you said you've been picking up a lot of Todd Gurley. I understand the zag on that because no one's really expecting tons out of Todd Gurley because of his knee. So I understand it. So I'm sure you can probably get his stuff fairly inexpensively. So it could be a decent zag to where if he does have a couple of big games, maybe he scores a couple times, and then maybe it's a flip opportunity. I guess my question would be are you looking to hold that? Is that a long-term hold for you for, the Todd Gurley pickups, or is that in-season flipping? Because I think in football, I don't know. I think the season's going to be interesting to kind of, how you're going to strategize that way. Are you going to, if a guy has a great game, are you going to sell the card? Are you going to look to sell the card? Are you looking to hold through the whole season? Those are all the questions I would ask with a guy like Todd Gurley.
Yeah. So who else are we talking about in the NFC South? Rattle the teams off for me now.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win? So between the Bucks, Saints, Panthers, and the Falcons, who ends up winning that division? And what are some other maybe players or guys in that, in that division that you're liking?
I like the Saints to win it.
I knew I liked you.
Yeah, they're going to extend Kamara, I'm pretty sure. Breeze is still playing like Breeze from 2001. He's still throwing the ball well. They got a good coach. I think Kamara will get more touch this year as long as he stays healthy. They added Emmanuel Sanders. A lot of people aren't talking about that. That's a number one. He was a number one in Denver. And look at his stats over limited games last year because he was banged up a little bit. Look at what he did in Pittsburgh when Denver signed him to be a number one because he was the numbers he's putting up in Pittsburgh. He's a number one now, playing a number two across from Michael Thomas with Drew Brees throwing the ball.
Well, we got a good look at him last year when they beat us in the Superdome. They beat us like 50-47. Emmanuel Sanders caught a touchdown and threw for a touchdown on a reverse. We got we got an eye full of we had our hands full with Emmanuel Sanders. So
I think that is the least talked about transaction in the NFL this year. That's going to be one of the most effective, and nobody's talking about it.
I haven't bought any Emmanuel Sanders rookies, but that could be a Zag. I mean, that could be a Zag, because look, if they double up on Michael Thomas, maybe it's Emmanuel Sanders going deep. Maybe that's who's getting the love, because Ted. I don't think we re-signed Ted Ginn. I'm pretty sure we did not. I think Ted Ginn is not on the roster. And Ted Ginn was our speedster. He was our, kind of the guy that was going to stretch the field. And now that's Emmanuel Sanders.
And Emmanuel Sanders, he offers so much more. He'll also go across the middle. He'll catch some screens. He's a route runner. He's a route runner first, but still a burner. And look at his quarterback play for the last couple of years. Who have been Denver's quarterbacks? It's a whole slew of guys, and he was still productive. As the number one, I know he's going to get more targets as the number one, but he's going to see more double coverage, and he has a crappy quarterback. Now he has a great quarterback. He's going to see single coverage, and I just think that opens the Saints' offense up even more. The question will be their defense playing at home. Are they going to be as good at home as normal?
Yeah.
That pass rush, because they did give up some points last year.
Yeah,
at times there were some games where they give up some points, surprisingly. But I like the Saints just because there's a lot of new pieces in Tampa Bay. There's Brady, and that's the main new piece, but you don't know who the running back's going to be. You got new chemistry to develop with the wide receivers. They brought in Fournette. Does that put pressure on Ronald Jones to pick up the pace? Is Fournette going to eventually be the starter? Bruce Arians likes to throw a lot, and I don't know if Tom Brady's the kind of quarterback at this age to throw a lot, and their offensive line is a question mark too. Brady has to stay upright. He's not going to be able to move around even as much as Jameis Winston was able to. He's not even known for being super mobile, but he was more mobile than Tom Brady.
Now, they did draft a tackle, I think, 10th overall.
Yeah, they did.
They drafted and he's supposed to be, it was a top 2 or 3 tackle in the draft. Now, granted, he's a rookie, so we'll see how quickly he gets up to speed. But I know that, I don't know, I think they're just going to be a juggernaut. I think they're going to be too much to handle. Just because Brady, I know he had a good line in England, but he also is a master of getting rid of the ball quickly. When needed, he can read the defenses. I just think that even if they have, a mediocre offensive line, he'll figure out ways to get the ball out quick. And he just has so many weapons. He has more weapons in Tampa this year than he's ever had in New England. And I'm curious to see if Gronk is going to be old Gronk. Arians was saying that Gronk looks like the Gronk from 5 years ago, in practice. So, I'm really, and it wouldn't shock me at all. The guy's had a year off to rest his body, get his body back, kind of up to speed. I'm just kind of, and is he going to be Brady's go-to because it's familiar? He's used to throwing that seam route over the middle and killing you for 30 yards to Gronk, I
guess if I had to pick between Tampa and New Orleans, and what to me sets the two apart as far as who's going to win, who I think will win the division, is hunger. I just think the Saints are more hungry. Brady is if some of Brady's leadership can rub off on these other guys and make them want to be more hungry to win, is more of just hungry to put up stats. Some guys just want to get theirs, and that's all they care about. The Saints, to me, strike me as a hungry team. I don't think there's anybody in the NFL as hungry as Drew Brees is right now, other than Patrick Mahomes. Just because Patrick Mahomes is still wanting to prove people that he can keep on doing it, but Brees wants to prove that he can still do it, and he's got a Super Bowl. He's coming to the end, and he wants another one bad. And,
I think it's his last year. I feel like it really is. I know he signed a 2-year deal, but I just believe with everything in me that this is the last one.
And I think that's what will drive him.
Yeah. Okay. David's Business asked, does Taysom Hill have a rookie card yet? He's one I'd like looking at for the future too. So I almost pulled the trigger. He does have a Contenders auto. And you know what? I was looking at this card a year ago, and it was just too expensive for me. There was a couple of auctions that I lost, and partly because I wasn't paying attention, I didn't bid in time, and they went for about $80. And those were the lowest I've ever seen that card. It typically sells for about $150 to $200 is what I've seen it. And I haven't even looked in months, so it could be higher than that now. or it could be lower. I'm not sure, but
It's
a Contenders auto, and that's the only one I really know of.
Yeah, that's the only rookie card that he has is the Contenders rookie auto ticket, and he's actually on the Green Bay Packers.
That's right.
Because I don't even know what position they have him on. He was more of a guy that wasn't, how Contenders makes cards of everybody.
Yeah,
Prism makes cards of the top guys and things like that. That's what makes Contenders valuable, because it's so hard to get somebody good because the rookie checklist is so big.
That's something. Maybe that's why it's so expensive, because there's not another rookie card.
Yeah, and it's his only one, and it's an auto rookie ticket. And there's a lot of Saints fans, and they want that card. So rather he's playing, starting, regardless of what he's doing, rather people think he's going to become a starter. There's all that hype, but there's also a lot of Saints fans that want a card that there's not a lot of them out there. And another guy that fell into the same boat, his card skyrocketed last year, was Raheem Mozart. He had a Contenders rookie auto, and I think that was it. I think it was his only rookie card. And when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl, that card was to the roof, even though he was a running back.
Yeah, that's something to know too. If you guys, any of you guys that are out there that are kind of newish into football cards, you've been doing maybe basketball or baseball, that's something to know that's a little bit different with football cards. Is Contenders Contenders autos are really kind of a go-to for football card collectors. They're looking for those. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, we have a question. Thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater, McCaffrey, and the Panthers as a team in general? Do you think they will make the playoffs? This is another one of those teams where it's like they could be awesome with a new coach, because the rest of the division haven't seen Bridgewater starting for this team. They've seen McCaffrey, but they don't know the offense, how the offense is going to run. They don't know how they're going to use them. So I think there's a lot of unknowns, which in football, it seems like the unknowns help the team, because it's like defenses adjust to every player, except for like a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You can't really adjust to him. You just have to try to limit him as much as you can. But typically with a running back or a QB or whoever it is, if you're a running QB or whatever, defenses will figure you out, and then they'll figure out how to play you. But when you have a new coach and you have a new scheme and you have all this, some new players, sometimes it can benefit you. So the Panthers could be a team that kind of comes out of nowhere, even though no one's expecting them to do anything. No one really knows what they're running.
I don't have any faith in Carolina this year. Just to be honest, not as a team. Christian McCaffrey's going to get his, that's for sure. DJ Moore, he'll probably be 1,000-yard receiver. That's another guy that you can get in on a bargain. I bought a bunch of his Contenders autos for $15 each. So DJ Moore, just one of those guys, like you said, take a flyer on. But maybe they took a defensive player with their first pick, but other than that, name a player on their defense. Yeah,
losing Kuechly is huge to me.
And I believe their defense was dead last against the run last year.
Yeah,
and then I remember,
I think they lost
fantasy football. If you were playing against Carolina, start the running back playing against Carolina.
Start everybody. Yeah. No, I think I agree. A few cards I picked up recently are second-year McCaffreys. And the reason why is because I was thinking about, and obviously this is a very loose comparison, but I'm thinking about Luka Doncic second-year, cards. And obviously this is different sports, it's different players. But McCaffrey is kind of that young prospect, in football that everyone's clamoring over and everyone's looking for his rookie cards. And so, oh, there you go. Steve was in on that. Steve got into all of this stuff.
Hollow PSA 10.
So is that up for, are you selling that? Are you about to ship that out?
No, I'm not about to ship it. I just have it. Back in May when I was camping, I did a video. I wasn't even prepared. And I was like, guys, the market's changing in football. I got laughed at. I said, Prism McCaffreys are up to $300. I got laughed at. And now they're $800. I said, you know what? Prism McCaffrey's up to $300. I'm going to buy myself an Optic Hollow, and I picked this up for $150.
Ooh, nice.
This is now close to $800 card.
Whew. That's nice.
That's one of the videos that I did that I got burned in the comments. People just disagreed with me big time.
So Steve's day job, for all of you that don't know, he's a psychic. That's what he.
No, I wish.
That's what he does.
No, I got some. I don't hit them all, man. I don't hit them all. It really wasn't that hard because the market was so hot that you could say any name and they were going to go up in price. Not by saying it, they were just going to go up. It didn't matter.
They're just doing it. Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. The market just skyrocketed. All right, let's see if we have any questions. I'm seeing a lot of comments. Yamwax, the cracked ice contenders are amazing. I did see a Mike Evans cracked ice contender auto. I think rookie. It was pretty sweet, even though I can't stand Mike Evans. But yeah, no, you're right. Those are sweet. All right. Well, actually, okay, so let's move on to another division that we haven't talked about yet. Let's go to the AFC West. Let's talk Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. So obviously Chiefs defending Super Bowl champs, and I don't think they got any worse. I think if anything, they might have gotten a little bit better if that's possible. But what is a team? So let's pick out a team. I'm going to pick out a dark horse team to beat them, to win the division. Let's just throw, caution to the wind. I'm going to say that the Raiders are going to come out of nowhere and unseat the Chiefs out of that division. And the reason why I think that is because I like the draft picks that they picked up that wideout from Alabama in the first round. I know Mayock and Gruden. I don't know how that relationship works. I think Gruden probably, pulls a lot of those strings, but I think they're developing something there. And then they've got the Death Star out there in Las Vegas. That I don't know. I just think that there's something brewing. I think there's some excitement, and I think I don't know if they're ready yet this year to kind of break through. But they weren't a bad team last year. They weren't a bad team. They couldn't find consistency. But I think they started the season like 4-2 or 5-3 or something. I mean, they were doing some good work. So who is your team if you had to pick one? That could unseat the Chiefs out of the Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, who would it be? And then also, let's just talk about players that we like, cards, players and their cards and blah, blah, blah.
It's so tough because it's going to hinge around quarterback play, but Denver, but it's going to hinge around Drew Lock. Can Drew Lock be successful? Yeah. They have weapons too. I mean, they picked up Melvin Gordon. So now Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, and Royce Freeman still in the backfield. Yeah. Cortland Sutton really emerged last year. They drafted Jerry Jeudy. Noah Fant was a great young tight end.
I'm going to grab more Diet Coke. Keep talking.
All right. Noah Fant was a great young tight end from last year. That's going to get better. And their defense is really good. And they're a defensively coached team. So the defense is going to be solid. And they have weapons on offense. So I feel like it could be Denver.
You think Drew Lock is the real deal?
I guess that's the $1 million question. Is Drew Lock going to be able to be good? I think he can be. It's going to be, he can throw the ball, the talent's there, but it's going to be his decision making. Is he going to throw interceptions? Is he going to make the right decisions? Is the game going to slow down for him, But as far as being able to make the plays, he can make the throws. He's got a really good arm. So it'd be his decision making. And I don't think he's just raw talent. I think he's pretty harnessed. So to him, it's going to be more of a mental thing.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate with both Kyler Murray and Drew Lock. And I think that one or both of those guys, and people are going to think that I'm nuts, but I think that one or both of those guys is going to have a Baker Mayfield type step back sophomore season. I think that they're going to struggle because I think that like we talked about earlier, I think that defenses figure out quarterbacks. And I think that once they get film on you and they can scheme against you, then they know, then it's over unless you can overcome those things, unless you're a Tom Brady, a Breeze, and you can kind of, if you can maneuver and keep everybody guessing and just make the tight passes in the small windows, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that once they get some film on you, then, you're going to struggle a little bit. And I think that Baker will bounce back. I think he'll have a decent season. I don't know if he's going to be lights out, but I think those two guys, maybe he's just one of those guys. I think that they're going to struggle a little bit. What do you think?
I think Denver is going to protect Drew Lock, and I don't mean protect him with the offensive line because, of course, that's their job. But I mean, they're not going to put him in a situation where he's taking, 40 dropbacks a game. They're going to pound the ball, run the ball, play good defense, and they're going to need him to make plays with his playmakers. And they brought Jerry Jeudy in for him.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're going to, and he's going to need to move the chains on 3rd and short or 3rd and 5. I don't think they're going to be dropping back on 1st down and running play action and things like that. Now they'll feed their play action off of their running game, but I think that they'll protect him. Where somebody like Kyler Murray in that air raid offense, he's going to be dropping back a lot. He's going to be taking a lot of hits. He likes to run. He's not very big in stature. Anyone was to have a fallback season, and I could see it being Kyler Murray just based on injury alone. And, some of the teams in that division defensively.
I was about to say that. I think the NFC West is the toughest division in football. So, I mean, the Cardinals are on the outside looking in. I mean, you've got the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks to overcome in that division. I just don't see it. Not that I don't think that he's a good player and that he could have a decent season, but you're not going to – I just don't see the Cardinals winning that division. Or even, then they're fighting for a wild card and, I don't know.
They'll be a competitive team, they won't just be getting blown out and things like that. And they may get a couple upsets like they did last year, but I don't see they're not ready to take the division. I don't think, not as long as Russell Wilson's still there, and not as long as that San Francisco defense plays the way that they're playing.
Yeah,
I mean, San Francisco was a play away from us talking about them being the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, no, it's true. And what's even crazier about that, too, with how good the 49ers were, if you remember back to last season, the Seahawks almost got the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks were on the goal line to beat the 49ers, and then they would have been, the 1 or the 2 seed. And then I forgot how it fell, but basically the Seahawks lost on the goal line, and they ended up being the 5 or the 6 seed instead of the 1 or the 2. It was a huge, huge difference. But that could have been Russell Wilson's, next champion. Yeah, that could have been another championship for him. It's a game of inches. All right, Yamwax asks, is Austin Eckler going to build on last season? How do you feel about Eckler?
Great player. He's explosive. Every time he touches the ball, he's dynamic. But he'll have limited touches. Even with Melvin Gordon gone, he's not the type of running back that's going to get 20 to 25 touches or carries, but he's not the right type of running back that needs it either. I don't know if Tyrod Taylor is an upgrade or a downgrade at quarterback. I think he'll be safer with the ball. However, I think he's not as threatening either. You're not scared of Tyrod Taylor going, 60 yards downfield on you, but he's not going to throw a bunch of bad passes. Eckler may see more receptions just because it'd be more of an underneath passing game. Building on last season, I look for it to be about the same, to be honest. I think with Eckler, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get some receptions. You're going to get some rushing or some receiving yards. Maybe 400 or 500 rushing yards, but he's not a workhorse.
Yeah.
And if they try to put him in a workhorse role, I think it'll actually hurt him. I think more touches will hurt him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a hard feeling on Eckler. I haven't followed him enough. I just know he's kind of more of that scat back type, and I'm just kind of like what you said, Steve. I just don't know if he's going to get the touches to really build on it. But who knows?
He's a really good player. He's just good at what he does, and I think if you take him out of what he does, then you kind of you take away from his strengths, and I think you suffer from it.
Yeah. All right. Lee asks, thoughts on Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson rookie cards. Lynch's career is underrated. 1 carry away from being a 2-time Super Bowl champ and most likely Super Bowl MVP. 1 carry. Lee is, I think, still going to therapy over that. I'm going to guess that you're a Seahawks fan.
Maybe a Seahawks fan there.
No, hey, dude, as a Saints fan, I'm in the same boat, man. There's a couple of plays over the last few seasons that I want back. But anyway, So, go ahead, Steve. What are your thoughts?
Was it the run against the Saints where Marshawn Lynch was just straight beast mode? Was that against the Saints? Who was that against? He stiffed arm.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing
that crazy run.
Thanks for bringing that
But
up.
anyway.
Let me get a box of Kleenex. I'll be back in a second.
The thing about Marshawn Lynch is that he had a bad start to his career there in Buffalo, got kind of off to a slow start. So, and with a running back, every year counts because you got about 8 to 10 good years before it's time. And if the first 3 or 4 years start off slow, then your legacy, with running backs, it's all about legacy and what you leave behind. And if you look back at 6 good years, to me, the 1 carry from the Super Bowl. Adrian Peterson, however, could be considered one of the best running backs ever.
Yeah.
I don't think Marshawn Lynch gets mentioned in that sentence. You know what I mean? If you say who are the top 5 running backs ever, and you wanted to have a debate about it, I'm not saying Peterson is in the top 5, but it's debatable. However, Marshawn Lynch isn't in that conversation for me.
I agree.
People may disagree. That doesn't mean I don't think he was great when he played. He just doesn't have the longevity to back it up.
What are your thoughts? So Rage 508. This is actually good. I'm glad that you brought this up because I hear a lot of Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James. What do you think about Edge? Because those are guys that are, unbelievable players, both of them. But you don't really hear them talked about that much. They're not really, and maybe just not enough time has gone by since they were, since they played. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I love Marvin Harrison. I always have.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He was quiet.
Yeah.
He's not your typical wide receiver that talks and give me the ball and is not happy when they don't get the ball. However, he would lead the league in receptions and yardage, and you wouldn't even know it. You have to actually go back and dig through the stats to see how good he was.
Does that hold him
being
back?
Said,
his card values, does that hold him back as kind of being
let's see. His rookie card is going to be a 96 Topps Chrome. It's probably going to be his best card, especially if we can get it in a refractor.
Let me make a note of that.
Or a 96 SP Authentic. Either the SP Authentic foil, it's got the red foil, or a Topps Chrome refractor from 96. I could see being a good stash because Peyton Manning's going to go into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah.
And who's going to be there at his induction? Who's he going to talk about throwing the ball to?
Yeah.
He's going to be like, and I couldn't have done it without Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James. You know what I mean? He's going to bring these guys up, and people are going to be like, okay, who was Marvin Harrison? Man, this guy was amazing. I got to go grab some of his stuff. So if you want to buy Marvin Harrison, there's no better time than now, in my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, though. I'm not saying go do it.
Right. No, I can see the play on that. I can definitely see the play on Marvin Harrison. He was a nightmare for defenses, absolute nightmare. Let's move over to the AFC North. Okay, so we're talking Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bengals. This is another brutal division. This division just beats itself. They kill each other. And they hate each other. This is a fun division to watch. So my in-laws are huge Browns fans. So obviously I'm a Saints fan, but then my de facto kind of my AFC team is the Cleveland Browns. And just because they've had such a rough go of it, the last few years, I like to root for the underdog anyway. And so, the Browns are kind of to a point where they're competitive, but the one team that stands out to me that is not really talked about at all, that's not getting any sort of airtime is Roethlisberger and the Steelers.
Right. Yep.
And I just think that Roethlisberger is the couple of interviews that I've heard with him talking, he's like, you know what, I enjoy being the underdog for a change. You can tell that he is raring to get back and prove himself. He wants to show that his elbow's not bothering him and that they're going to go and do their thing. That's just kind of my preseason viewpoint on the Steelers. What are your thoughts on either the Steelers or any team in that division?
I'm going to write off Cincinnati right from the beginning. That's a tough division for a rookie quarterback to come into. And Cincinnati could be competitive, but they're not taking the division.
No.
The Browns, man, they have no excuse to not be competitive. They just don't.
On paper, they're there.
But, the coaching, you got to give the coaching, Pittsburgh and Baltimore are really good on paper. Cleveland's good on paper, but what do they have to offer coaching? Tomlin and Harbaugh are great coaches. Yeah. You look at Pittsburgh, and even with a healthy offense, their downfall over the past, 5 or so years has been a bad defense. And last year, their defense was amazing. Once they got Minka Fitzpatrick from Miami, he almost won defensive MVP. And James Conner was hurt all year. Roethlisberger was hurt all year.
Sidebar, as a Dolphins fan, how'd you feel about the Fitzpatrick trade? Because you guys got a first rounder and stuff for him.
We got a lot for him,
Were you happy about it or not happy? Or
well, all the players that were unhappy in Miami that wanted out, he was one of them. If you're unhappy with the team, then I don't want players being unhappy on the teams that they're just not going to perform. And that was case in point. Whether he was performing because he wasn't underperforming because he wasn't happy, or just because they didn't fit the scheme. The scheme didn't fit him because he can play all over the field, and they want him to play one position. Pittsburgh was a perfect fit for him and with Tomlin. But and Baltimore, they're well coached. They run the ball, play good defense. Baltimore's might be the favorite, but you're right. Pittsburgh isn't getting talked about. And last year they were almost a playoff team. They were very competitive last year with like really, Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and
they had no reason to be competitive, and they were still pretty good.
Yeah, their defense was really good. They were playing 3 or 4 different running backs because nobody was ever healthy. You know, Benny Snell, Jalen Samuel, Connor was in and out of the lineup. It was the first year without Antonio Brown, so Juju was trying to come in as the number 1 guy without his quarterback. And they added a big piece. They added Eric Ebron. That's an established tight end that can get in the end zone. If that's one thing he can do is catch touchdowns.
You know, it's funny that you say Ebron. So I bought a couple. So I saw exactly the same thing. I'm like, who are they going to throw to outside of Juju? I went out and picked up some were they Prism autos? I picked up 3 cards for Eric Ebron. They were like $10 for like numbered to 49, you know, like rookie autos. And I'm like, why not? You know, I mean, it's like $5-10 a card raw. You know, I mean, why not throw some money at Eric Ebron, because Roethlisberger will get the ball to him.
Yeah, he likes throwing to the tight end, and I don't think he's had one as talented as Eric Ebron in a while. I mean, Eric Ebron gets laughed at sometimes for being an underachiever because he was expected to be better with Detroit. But going to Indy, he had a huge year with Andrew Luck. Not so much last year, but they played, you know, musical quarterback last year at Indy. And Big Ben will get him the ball, especially in the red zone. That's where he thrives. He's a big guy, thrives in the red zone. Juju, being maybe a smaller receiver, may not be that red zone target. I think Ebron can really help that team.
Rage is saying OBJ is going to have a huge year, mark my words. Is OBJ going to get back to his old self, or is he going to be a distraction in the locker room? What are your thoughts? Hot take from Steve on OBJ.
Well, I took him as my first receiver in my fantasy draft last night, but that's kind of because I waited till the 3rd round to take a receiver. But, you know, he's got all the talent in the world. He's his own worst enemy. And again, will there be chemistry between Baker and Odell? I mean, Odell's never played with a great quarterback. I mean, Eli was okay, but he's never played with anybody with a rocket arm. Mayfield can make throws. He can fit the ball through tight windows. He has all of the talent in the world, and so does Odell Beckham Jr. Honestly, I think he bounces back. I actually think he's a good buy. If you want 2013, I think Prism. And, you know, if you're looking at other wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, these other guys that are really gone up in price.
Yeah, how are his prices compared to those guys?
You can get like his Prisms raw, like maybe $30, $40. So it's really, you know, how much confidence do you have in him? All he has to do is have a couple good games for that Prism to shoot up, because that card, you know, it's Prism. But condition sensitive. You got to look at the surface on these cards. I've been looking at them, and if you see one selling $25, buy it now. More than likely it's defective. So, you know, I'm seeing them going off at $40, $45. And there was a lot that I was looking at, and it was like $60 for the lot. And I was like, wow, that's a good deal. But then in big highlight, it said surface scratches. So I was like, oh, never mind.
Oh, crap.
But at least they disclosed it. That's the thing you got to be careful about. There's a couple Prism cards, because when you look at the Russell Wilson 2012 Prism, that card took off like out of this world. 2012 Prism also has Ryan Tannehill in there, so I think that's a sneaky buy. I don't think he's going to put. He doesn't necessarily going to put up all world numbers, but can he be a top 10 quarterback and go into the playoffs? I think he can, and that's all you need to do.
Yeah, nice. All right, E-Man is asking, who gets Rookie of the Year this year? I'm going to say, so because of all the talent that was drafted in the first round at wide receiver, I'm just going to say one of the wide receivers, and I think let's say one of the Alabama wide receivers. Yeah, I'm going to go with one of those guys. I'm going to say Ruggs, since I'm going with the Raiders. Since I'm going with the Raiders being sneaky out there in the West, in the AFC West, I'm going to say Ruggs is going to light it up. I saw him do some sort of like 360 dunk or something. The guy is he's an athlete. They all are, though. I mean, that was an insane first round of wide receiver talent in this last draft. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see some of those guys on the field. What are your thoughts, Steve?
I was going to lean CD Lamb, but I'm not. I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Who'd you say?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Isn't that his name? Running back from LSU. He's going to start for Kansas City.
Oh, yes.
And he's going to get a lot of national attention playing with the Chiefs.
Yep.
And he's on a powerful offense. He's going to get his numbers. It doesn't matter who you put back there. They're going to get numbers. Look what Damian Williams did in the Super Bowl. They can make a playoff run. I mean, probably be back into the Super Bowl. That's just going to put even more. If they go to the Super Bowl and he's the starting running back, he's Rookie of the Year, hands down.
That's actually a really, really good point. Yeah, that dude is. Yeah, I've heard him talked about. He's gonna be good.
Yeah.
All right, Kenny Gallaudet, is he the next big receiver?
In comparison to what? Because Kenny Gallaudet is already really productive. I even think his prisms have actually seen spikes because he's one of the ones that people are looking to take off, but he's already top 8 in the league. He's not DeAndre Hopkins or Julio or anything like that. But when you say like when you say big, I just don't know in comparison to what, because he's a 1,000-yard receiver who catches touchdowns. So.
Yeah. Again, though, there's so much wide receiver talent. It's going to be it's going to be tight at the top this year. I mean, stats wise. I mean, especially like we're talking about with all those first rounders, you have to assume that some of maybe a couple of those guys don't work out. It takes them a couple of years to get established in the league, but I mean, a lot of those guys are going to work out. Yeah,
there's guys like Keenan Allen who have been great and have been productive. And last year might have been second in the year in the league in receptions to Michael Thomas, but never get tossed around as in big receiver, so it's all depends on, it has a lot to do with popularity, playing in Detroit. There's a lot of people who just don't know who Kenny Gallaudet is, even though he's been very productive and, you just don't know who he is. He could have a way better year than Odell Beckham Jr. has, but you know who Odell Beckham Jr. is. You don't know who Kenny Gallaudet is. Yeah,
this is a guy I think is going to have a nice season as Stephon Diggs with the Bills. I think that, with that defense, I think the Bills take the next step and they finally take over that division, take it back from the Patriots after so long. I think it's going to be tight, but I think that they're going to overcome them this year.
No, it'll be 1 year. This is the Bills' 1 year window to win the East. That's what I'm telling all my friends. I got some friends from Buffalo, and I'm like, okay, guys, this is your 1 year window to win the East because for the next 10 years after this, it belongs to Miami.
I have been hearing it. I mean, so analysts have been talking up the Dolphins, and I know that. Who's the coach? Who's the coach again that came from New England?
Brian Flores.
Yeah. So he's building. I mean, they've been trading away guys. They've been picking up draft assets all over the place, and they've been making some really nice moves. I think it's going to come down to. So the thing with the Dolphins, and tell me what you think. I am just not sold on Tua. I don't know how I feel about Tua. And just with the injury history, and I know that he came back from the the hip stuff and he looked fine in the workouts, but I don't know, man. Like I'm not sure about Tua. And I think that, in the NFL, you've got to have, obviously, defense matters, but you've got to have that franchise QB. And the Dolphins, that's really the thing the Dolphins have been lacking for a long time, is that guy at QB. And I just don't know if it's him. What do you think?
I mean, that's understandable. I mean, if I was to base it on talent alone, I would have no worries about Tua. I believe from a talent standpoint and from being NFL ready, he played in Alabama. He's ready to play. It is the injury. I mean, there's a reason why he fell to number 5 or whatever it was in the draft, and it wasn't based on people didn't think he could perform from a talent standpoint. It was more of, is he going to take one hit and be done? So, again, as a Miami fan, it makes me a little nervous. I would be a liar if I said it wasn't, but I think that they're trying to protect him. They spent a lot of draft capital on linemen, and they have more draft capital for next season that they'll probably spend on linemen. if it doesn't work out this year, just because they're not going to throw him in there. They're going to let Riot and Fitzpatrick get beat up. They're not going to throw Tua in there until they feel ready and until he's ready. So, yeah, I've seen players come back from tougher injuries. I never thought Adrian Peterson would run again after he tore every ligament in his knee, and he come back and had the best season of his career. So,
yeah, AP is a robot though.
Yeah. So, but the way medicine is nowadays, an injury is an injury in your back. It seems like.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room with COVID. So if you get COVID, you're out for 3 weeks, which is essentially 20% of the season, not including the postseason. So I mean, you got to think too. I mean, the teams that are the teams this season with the COVID stuff going on, it's got to be who is deepest. Because if you think like a team, I know we talked about this last time that we did one of these. But it's like if you have a banged up secondary and then like a guy gets COVID or something and then he's out for 3, and teams can throw on you now. I mean, every team looks at your weakness and exploits your weakness, whatever that is. So if it's your secondary, if it's your offensive line, if it's your, whatever it is. So I think that's going to be really interesting to watch is without having a bubble, how many of these guys are going to get COVID and how, how is that going to play out? Because it's not like the NBA where they actually have it under control.
Yeah, I'm nervous. COVID is definitely a concern. Every single fantasy football league that I'm in has contingency plans based on whether or not the season gets okay. When are we gonna disqualify payouts? At what week do we say okay, everything is good? I'm sure you're going to experience the same thing, but 3 weeks you're right, is a lot. Somebody like Christian McCaffrey got it. I mean, 3 weeks. Then again, I mean, if someone gets it on a team, those guys are in such close quarters. How does that affect the entire team? They're going to quarantine the team, test them. I mean, they'll definitely test them. I get that, but at what point do they say, okay, it's safe for everybody to play?
And then last week they had a bunch of false positives, so that even throws a kink in it. It's like, what if you have? I mean, these games are close together to where you've got to get that stuff figured out pretty quick. If you have false positives, you literally have a few days to turn that around. Because what if they don't travel with the team? What if this guy gets a false positive, doesn't fly with the team, and then they're like, oh, sorry, just kidding. McCaffrey didn't have COVID. They'd probably fly him out on the overnight, the private jet. I'm sure they'd get him out there one way or the other. But it's just nightmare stuff, man. Nightmare.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the NFC North. Are you good on time? Because we're hitting that 90-minute mark.
Oh, I'm fine, man. I have nothing to do. I'm off work tomorrow.
You know what? Kids are in bed. Wife is asleep, so I'm just going to keep it rolling if you're good with it.
I'm good.
All right, NFC North. Packers, Bears, Vikings, Lions. This is kind of tricky for me because I feel like all 4 teams could make a case to win this division. I know that some people.
I feel like none of those teams really stand out to me. It actually almost sounds as if the division is soft.
Kind of, which is weird to say because it's a tough division typically.
Yeah.
I guess you'd probably have to say the Packers, just coming off of last season, and they've got the Hall of Fame quarterback. Here's the zag. I picked up Kirk Cousins rookie cards last.
He's in the Prism. I think he's in the 2012 Prism.
I got a couple of those. They were
with the Wilson and that's a good buy, I think too.
Like $15 raw or $20 raw. I also got there's a Topps Chrome Hollow or Refractor or something I got for nothing. $10. Raw. But I was thinking Kirk Cousins is one of those guys I watched. So I was in the stands in the Superdome watching Kirk Cousins beat us in the playoffs last season. So I got an eye full of Kirk. I got enough of Kirk Cousins that I wanted to see, but everyone's kind of said Kirk is never going to win anything. He's never going to get over the hump. And granted, the Vikings didn't win a Super Bowl or anything, but they did move. They did beat the number 1, number 2 seed Saints. The Vikings are actually pretty decent. And then they got the pass rusher from the Jags. They just picked up, I can't pronounce his name. It starts with a Y from the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got him opposite of Hunter. I mean, and look, Zimmer is a defensive coach. Zimmer's going to put a good team on the field. So that would be, I guess, my dark horse team. I wouldn't even call it a dark horse team, but the team that could unseat the Packers, in that division. I'm going to say the Vikings. What are your thoughts?
Well, all those teams always play each other tough. It always seems like each of them beat each other once.
Yeah.
Even when the Bears are as bad as they are, but it has to be Green Bay. Let's see. If you look at the 4 quarterbacks in the league, you got to go with Aaron Rodgers. You can't ever count him out. I don't like. I'm not going to say I don't like Matt LaFleur because I don't know him, but I mean I don't like some of his coaching decisions, especially at running back. I mean, when you have a clear-cut running back like Aaron Jones and you have him in every other drive, it just doesn't make sense to me. Especially being a fantasy football player, it just eats you up. But
well, at least you have a decoy. I mean, have him on the field to just as a decoy or something. Run him out of the backfield.
Yeah, like Aaron Jones comes off the field and he's their biggest playmaker. Green Bay needs some work with their defense. They got brutalized last year by the run and not too good with the pass. They need safety help. They drafted a safety number one round last year. Darnell Savage. He needs to develop a little bit. He's from Maryland. I know him. He's like a local guy. His father plays in the casino. They come in. I always tease him because Dalvin Cook cooked him once, and he was on my fantasy team. And I was like, man, Dalvin Cook put a shake move on you. His father's always like, oh, don't detail this, but it's funny. But
we were at that game last year, the playoff game, and Dalvin Cook had missed a bunch of time because he was injured, and he came back just for that playoff game and ran for 120 yards on us. We hadn't given up like a 100-yard rushing game once or twice all season. He just lit us up. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is a good player.
Detroit can surprise a lot of people. They played really competitive last year.
Yeah.
Stafford needs to stay healthy. Stafford's a good quarterback, underrated. Kenny Gallaudet, who we talked about earlier, is a big weapon. They just signed Adrian Peterson to be their workhorse, probably. I'm going to guess. See if he's got any mileage left on him. And they drafted DeAndre Swift to be, their elusive guy. I originally thought Swift was going to be their guy until they signed Peterson. TJ Hawkinson's a good young tight end.
Yeah. No, the Lions
is a good player.
The Lions have been good the last 3 seasons. They can't stay healthy. That's all it is. And just losing close games. They lost.
Yeah, they lose close games and they lose close games and they suffer injuries. I can actually see Detroit being a shocker. If anybody's going to surprise that division, it's going to be Detroit. It won't be the Bears. I think the Vikings regress a little bit. They lost Stephon Diggs. I think that I know they drafted Peterson or Patrick Peterson. Is that his name?
I don't know who they are.
Jefferson something.
They got Patrick Jefferson from LSU.
From LSU, yeah. I get him mixed up with the quarterback, but I mean
Jefferson's a beast. I mean, but he's a rookie. So
yeah, I just think with him being a rookie, there might be a lack of chemistry there. Adam Thielen, I mean, he's also been played with injuries also.
Yeah.
So I actually look for regression out of Minnesota. And I think Detroit can be a sleeper. I don't look for much coming out of Chicago. They just don't excite me at all. Their running game is in shambles. David Montgomery's not going to be the guy that they thought that he was going to be. He's just not that type of running back.
But Steve, you're forgetting something, though. You're forgetting something. They picked up Nick Foles.
Yeah, they picked up Nick Foles, but they already named Trubisky the starter.
The E-Man just said, do we see Nick Foles this season? I think the obvious answer from my mind is absolutely, man. When you need some magic, you got to go to Nick Foles. I don't think that Trubisky stays a starter for the entire season. I think that he blows it. I just don't think that he's got it. I don't think he's got that thing. And I just don't think that the NFL in today's world is going to give him the opportunity to have 3-4 seasons to adjust to the league.
Well, I actually think the same can be said about Nick Foles. Nick Foles won the Super Bowl with the Eagles. He fell into the perfect situation. He come in as a journeyman with a chip on his shoulder. He was a backup. He had been written off. And he had a lot to prove. He was hungry. And that team was good. That team fit him perfectly, had a lot of weapons. But he doesn't have a whole lot at Chicago. Once you get named the starter and you become the man, when he was in the Eagles, he had nothing to lose. He could play like he had nothing to lose. And then once you become the man and you sign a contract, just like he did in Jacksonville, now there's expectations on you. And he's never really been the kind of quarterback that can perform under expectations.
That's a good point because he hasn't done it anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, he was drafted to be the Eagles' heir apparent because Andy Reid liked him. The only reason he stayed around is because Andy Reid got a coaching job with Kansas City, and he brought him in off the street to be the backup. Mm-hmm. they bounced back over to the Eagles as a favor. He spent time as the number one with the Rams, and they were god awful. And he bounced back to the Eagles. He landed in the perfect situation. He did not play that season for them. That was Carson Wentz's season, and he got hurt.
Yeah. And it was
to go in and lead a team from day one when you're expected to be that guy, he's just never been able to do it.
Yeah, I think that also Peterson's system was just perfect for Foles, to where not only did he have the weapons, but it was also just the right type of offense for him. And else. All right, Ray just talking about Shady McCoy. Yeah, I forgot how many running backs the Bucs have. Like everyone's talking about Fournette, and I forgot they even have LaShawn McCoy. Yeah, I'm like, it's like the dream team down there, And we get them on Sunday at 4:00. I'll be there. I'll be not there, but I'll be watching. All right, let's see. Have we hit all the divisions? We have not talked about NFC West yet. Actually, we haven't hit near. Okay, we still have a couple of divisions to cover. 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, Arizona Cardinals. We kind of did touch on it a little bit with Kyler Murray earlier. I know there's a ton of hype around Kyler Murray. Ton of hype in the sports card world, I should say, because I see a billion people talking about how they're buying Kyler Murray prisms, et cetera, et cetera. And I just am not. I'm not there yet with Kyler Murray. What are your thoughts on that division? Who do you think ends up pulling it out, and who could be, I guess, maybe some dark horse players from a sports card standpoint? Who could be some under the radar guys?
Okay, nobody thinks going to win the division. It's tough. San Francisco is so good, but I'm going to say Seattle's going to win it, and that's going to be the one division I'm really going out on a limb. So I know I looked Kansas City, and I took Buffalo, and I took the Ravens, things like that. But I'm going to go out and say that Russell Wilson is going to will his team to a division championship.
I agree with you.
He almost did it last year, single-handed.
Yeah.
There's not much that scares me on San Francisco's offense. They got the three-headed running back. They have Jimmy G, who's, I don't think he's going to win you a lot of games. He's just not going to lose you a lot of games. We saw that in the Super Bowl. He didn't necessarily lose that game, but he couldn't win it. And Emmanuel Sanders is gone. Their offense took a spark last year when they signed to Sanders. I can't believe they let him go, and that's why I think he's going to be so good in for the Saints. But
I think that's the difference between the division, really. If they still have Sanders, I would say the 49ers, but without Sanders, I'd say the Seahawks.
Yeah, they just don't have a whole lot of threats at receiver. I even think the young guys that they have are kind of hurt.
Debo and
yeah, they did lose a piece on defense that they traded, I think, to the Colts. They did draft somebody in place of him. But you don't know how good they're going to be, and how much better can their defense actually be? They were so good last year that there has to be some sort of regression. I would think,
or injury.
So I'm going to go with Seattle. As far as dark horse players that you could buy, Jared Goff is cheap. I was looking at Jared Goff optic. Jared Goff optic PSA 10s, $100 already graded in PSA 10. $100 can be a little pricey. I get that, but you're talking about a starting quarterback who's 1 year removed from the Super Bowl.
I thought that was.
Or was it 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago?
No, you're right. But I thought
1 year removed.
I didn't realize they were $100. My gosh, that's low. I thought they would be.
Yeah, that's low. I've been looking at them. You can buy the Don Russ in a PSA 10 for $35, which looks like the optic, but it's the Don Russ. These are just good buys. Bargain buys that will get pulled up if the prisms go up. I'm not saying go buy the prisms for a couple $100. Get in low on some $35 PSA 10s Don Russ. It's going to cost you $15 just to get them graded.
Yeah,
already buy it in a 10.
I'm a big believer.
I've been watching auctions of that card go off all day at that price.
I'm a big believer in Sean McVay as a coach too.
Yeah, they're going to pass the ball a ton. He's already come out and said it. He says we're going to pass the ball more than anybody this year. He didn't even. Gurley's gone. You don't know. I guess Cam Akers is probably going to be the running back. He said it was Darrell Henderson's job to lose, but I think that's just a coach's way of saying Cam Akers is the guy.
Yeah.
Tyler Higbee's really good. They finally incorporated him into their offense. Cooper Kupp, if he can stay healthy, is just as good as anybody out there.
Yep.
Robert Woods is a route running machine, and the defense underperformed last year. I think their defense can only be better. So I think the Rams are a little bit of a sleeper, and I look for Jared Goff to bounce back.
Yeah, those are good points with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I've heard a lot of talk on the sports card side for Cooper Kupp. Haven't heard anything about Robert Woods though. Robert Woods, and I don't know if maybe he's too much of a role player receiver, and they're just spreading it around too much to maybe, that's kind of the issue with like the Bucks. Who are you going to buy on the Bucks? I mean, there's Evans, there's Gronk, there's that he's even talking up Scotty Miller has had a great camp or whatever. That's like their fifth receiver. When they're spreading the ball around like that, I just don't know, if those are, I don't know. I can't really decipher which one would be a good pickup one way or the other.
Yeah.
They're fun to speculate on, though.
They did lose Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks was spent a lot of time in concussion protocol last year. I think he had 2 concussions last year. So that's one thing I don't like about Brandon Cooks. If he takes a hit over there on Houston, he could be one of the guys that they just force out. They don't let people play anymore once they take too many concussions.
Brandon Cooks is not. I mean, we drafted him. The Saints drafted Cooks, ended up trading him to the Patriots, then they traded him to the Rams, and then he's not a clutch guy. Not only is he the concussion guy, but he puts up numbers
right
healthy. But if you need a big catch in the crunch, in crunch time, it's not going to happen with Brandon Cooks.
I think the one thing with him at the Rams was Jared Goff felt like he had to force him the ball. When Cooks went out with concussion last year, they passed the ball better. They moved the ball better. Tyler Higbee was used a lot. He was getting anywhere between 8 and 12 receptions coming out from the tight end spot. They were lining him up in the slot. And he actually was getting the nickname Kelsey Light. So Tyler Higbee is a good up-and-coming player, too. You can eat up his contenders if you like investing in tight ends dirt cheap. I think the Rams move back up into the right direction. I don't think they'll win the division. Could they contend for a wild card? I definitely think that they could.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not counting the Rams out. Rage is saying, but Cooks has got the numbers, bro. And I do hear you, man. I know that Brandon Cooks puts up numbers. And you know what? Maybe Cooks is a good zag. I actually watched a video. I can't remember which YouTube person it was, but he was picking up Brandon Cooks rookies for really, really cheap, really cheap. And I mean, with him being in Houston and really kind of being Deshaun Watson's main go-to, I mean, maybe he'll get a lot of touches. Maybe he will put up big numbers and have a good year, So, I mean, it could be a good zag, I suppose, if the price is right, because Brandon Cook stuff is pretty low from what I saw in that video. So,
yeah, the thing that scares me off Brandon Cooks, again, like I said, concussions. He's pretty one-dimensional as a receiver. He's not a very good route runner. He doesn't run across the middle. He's more of a deep threat. They have that in Houston already. That's been Will Fuller's role. Of course, he can't stay healthy either.
Yeah.
He's not going to go there and put up DeAndre Hopkins type numbers because he's just not as a complete player as DeAndre Hopkins is. And Cooks has progressively his numbers have progressively gone down over the years, if you look at it. And his final seasonal stat line might be decent. He might have 1,050 yards or 1,100 yards. But if you look at him over a game-to-game basis, he'll have 2 or 3 games where he doesn't do anything, and he'll have a monster game. So he's not so much of a consistent player. What carries his stat line is a couple big games throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to move over. I believe this is the last division that we have not talked about yet. Yeah, this is the last one, and it is the NFC East. So it's Eagles, Cowboys, the Washington football team, and the Giants. I would probably have to go with the Cowboys as the division winner for this one. They just are. I think they're more complete. I think that Dak is the best quarterback. I like Wentz, but it's just Wentz can't stay on the field. Is my issue with Wentz. And Dak can. Dak is really durable. He's been durable at least so far in his career. And then the other teams are just not quite there yet. So I think this is the Cowboys division to lose. Yeah, so I'll start there. What are your thoughts?
That's the key thing that you said. You said you think it's the Cowboys' division to lose, and they'll probably find a way to lose it.
And they'll find a way to lose it.
Because I think the last 3 years in a row, I've picked the Cowboys, and they found a way to lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Eagles took that division at 8-8 last year.
Oh, that's right. It was about it was just
the Eagles took that division at 8-8. It's ridiculous, but
and the Cowboys had that. Didn't they blow like the last 3 games or something? Like they had.
They lost a bunch of games. They started out like 6-0.
Yeah,
and they finished the season 8-8, I think. something like that.
I think, though, that Dak, so they've got CeeDee Lamb, they've got Amari Cooper. I think that Lamb makes a difference there for them with Zeke running the ball with a good offensive line. I think I think it's their time now. I think this is where I think
the offensive line is probably not as good. I
Yeah,
know they lost a player or two.
They lost. I know they lost.
Yeah. And Amari Cooper is another guy that can't stay on the field.
Yeah.
He's great when he's on the field. Don't get me wrong. I liked him. I liked him coming out of Alabama. Those Alabama guys are always polished. When he hit the field for the Raiders, he was great, and he's been great when he's on the field for the Cowboys, but just hasn't been on the field. We'll have to see what kind of Zeke plays this year because I felt like Zeke was lazy last year. He got paid. He came into camp late, and he just looked like a lazy football player.
I think the coach, and actually this is a good comment right here. They got rid of their weak link, Garrett. Totally agree. I think they just got a little complacent, that team. They had a lot of really good talent, and I think they just got complacent. I think McCarthy's going to come in with a head of steam. I think he's going to feel like he's got a chip on his shoulder with how it went down in Green Bay, and I think that he's ready to roll, and I think he's going to have something to prove.
Yeah. They did. I think they lost a couple defensive players also. So I think the Cowboys win the division just because the other teams are weak. I don't think the Cowboys are great. On paper, they look really good. As a team and performance-wise, they never teams seem to put it together. They should win the division. However, I don't look for them to, get out of the first round of the playoffs if they do win the division. I don't look for Cooper to play 16 games. CeeDee Lamb isn't ready to slide outside and play Cooper's role. He's better coming out of the slot. Jason Witten's gone. He was a big leader. He was older and all that, but if they had any type of leadership on that field, it was him. He's gone. He brought fire and passion, even though he looked like he was running in place at times. But still, he brought the one thing that the team needed, some fire, because they weren't getting it from the sideline. Jason Garrett, like you said, they got rid of him. But Garrett was a good offensive mind. That'll show for the Giants. The Giants' offense will be better. Jason Garrett will make that offense better as an offensive coordinator. Yeah, he's more suited as a coordinator than he is a head coach. I just don't know, McCarthy, the way he left Green Bay, being thrown under the bus by Aaron Rodgers. Is that team going to respect him? Is he going to get the best out of those players? He's got to do better than Garrett, so it can't be worse. So, I guess the Cowboys. Wentz, even for his injuries last year, a lot of people were dogging Carson Wentz, saying he's terrible. He's the worst quarterback, and you look at his numbers last year, and he probably had the best statistical season he's ever had, even with the injuries. And nobody even realized that.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to.
No, and I think I saw a report they're still trying to trade Alshon Jeffrey, or he wants out or whatever. I mean, the season's about to start and they're still talking about trading him. It's like, but you're right. I mean, they need to get Wentz some weapons.
Washington's still a little ways away. I think their defense is going to be really good. Ron Rivera went there. He's a good coach. He's a disciplined coach. He'll get those guys playing fundamental football.
Yeah,
he was able to coach Cam Newton and coexist there. He'll get Dwayne Haskins playing good football.
You think so? You think Haskins is going to have a decent year?
I think that he will play. I think he'll do what's asked of him. Like, he's not going to be asked to go out there and, like I said, throw the ball 40 times and 4,000 yards. He'll manage the game well. He'll make some good plays. He'll make some mistakes. It's just going to happen. Terry McLaurin's awesome. And I don't know what they're going to go with that running back. Right now it's looking like Antonio Gibson, but I got a sneaky feeling that Bryce Love is going to find his way up into that offense somehow.
I mean, Rivera must feel pretty good about his running backs to cut Adrian Peterson. Not that Peterson was amazing, but he's still he's a good back if you're going to cut somebody. I don't think that was really like a money decision because I don't think AP was making a bunch of money.
Yeah, right. I think Washington progresses. They win a couple more games than they did last year, which really won't be hard to do. But
what do you think about Daniel Jones?
I was going to touch on the Giants. Man, Daniel Jones.
I think he's going to be good long term. I don't know if it's going to be good.
I mean, he's looked like $1 million, and he's looked like roll of pennies. It's like that team revolves around Saquon Barkley and his health. And I mean, he came back from an injury last year in no time. I mean, he was like superhuman. I still don't think he was 100%. Barkley will have the best year of his career so far this year, which he was hurt last year and it was rookie year, but he'll have a bigger year than his rookie year. Sterling Shepard scares me again, another concussion guy. Golden Tate, though, he's reliable. I guess the question is going to be their offensive line. Golden Tate's reliable, and I think Darius Slayton was actually emerging as a good receiver last year. Him and Jones were developing some good chemistry, and they were both rookies. He caught a lot of long balls and was a good weapon for the Giants down the stretch. Evan Ingram, another injury guy, he's always out, but when he's on the field, he's really good.
He's talented. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know what the Giants offer up on defense right now.
That's a good point. I can't name one Giants defensive starter that's a stud. I can't.
Yeah, I really can't. And like I said, I think Jason Garrett will get that offense clicking. So I think the Giants are going to score some points. And I think Daniel Jones is going to have to throw, so they're going to be playing from behind a lot.
But they are in a
weak. He's going to get his opportunities.
Fairly weak division, at least.
Yeah,
I feel like if the Giants were in any other division, they would be in big trouble. The NFC East is just struggling right now. I don't know. It doesn't look like they're that much improved from last year. And
they're the worst division. I mean, when a team wins a division at 8-8, that's just not,
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's so much parity in the NFL. We'll see if that, because historically, the NFC East has been a great division, and just, it's gotten bad the last couple of years, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. All right, so we've covered all the divisions. What about who's your Super Bowl pick? Who's going to play in the Super Bowl and who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Who's going to play and who's going to win?
The way too early predictions. Well, let's go over it.
Well, let's see. In the AFC, I'm going to go with the favorite in the AFC. I'm not going on any limbs here because I think the team actually got better. It's going to be the Chiefs. Nobody stops Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the Ravens are there. But they got beat by Tennessee. I think if I had to put my money on a quarterback in an AFC championship game and it was Baltimore and Kansas City, I'd have to go with Kansas City. They got better at running back. They signed all their defensive pieces. Another year with Mahomes and Hill, if he's healthy, Watkins, Kelsey, and McCole Hardman is a burner.
Yeah, they're loaded.
So, yeah, they're loaded. Andy Reid's still a great coach, so they're well coached. If I go over to the NFC, let's see, I didn't pick the Niners to win the division. It wouldn't surprise me if they went back to the Super Bowl, even if they didn't win the division. But I'm going to go with I don't want to jinx them. I'm not just saying this because they're on their show, but I'm going to revert back to what I said earlier about the Saints. I just think that –
I knew it, Steve. I knew it. We're best friends.
I just think that there's something – I can't put my finger on it. There's something about Drew Brees this year that just is giving me a feeling that this is his last hurrah, and he is going to refuse to not go out on top, or at least to the Super Bowl. I mean, could you imagine the Saints and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? That would be an exciting Super Bowl. That would be a shootout. But I just think for some reason Brees, I don't know what it is. There's something about him that I feel like he's going to refuse to not go, because 2 years in a row they're knocking on the door, and it's probably referees that kept him out of it. And I know it's a sour subject, but I mean, they're right there. So
I can't argue it.
I mean, they're right there.
The sad part is the Patriots shut out the Rams basically in the Super Bowl. So it's like, man, if it had been like 40-38 or something, but it wasn't.
That was one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever seen.
It was terrible.
Most boring.
Actually, that was the first Super Bowl I didn't watch. In the last 30 years as a kid watching every year, I did not watch that Super Bowl because of how our season ended. Okay, so Les Alex says the Browns and Baker is MVP of the Super Bowl. He is picking the Saints versus Browns. Actually, Alex, those are my teams. Literally, I think I told you, my in-laws are huge Browns fans, so I'm a Saints fan. I pull for the Browns, and that's my AFC team. So that would be amazing for me, actually. That would be a great scenario, assuming the Saints don't lose. But Yeah, the Browns, I think a lot of people are just pulling for the Browns to get over the top. They've had so many down years. It's time. It's their time. I'm going to say outside of the Browns Saints, it's hard to not think that, the superhuman Patrick Mahomes is not going to go back this year, just because it's not as if, typically a team wins a Super Bowl and they lose half their roster to free agency, because they're all getting paid because they just won the Super Bowl. And that didn't really happen. They didn't really lose much, if anything. If anything, they got better. And their division, it's not like they're playing in a really, really stout division. I think they're going to have a fairly easy road to the 1 or 2 seed in that. So, and actually something that's changed too next year, Steve, I don't know if you saw this, but now it's just the 1 seed that gets home field. And I don't even know if that even really matters with the COVID stuff, if home field even really matters. But instead of it being the 1 and the 2 seed, it's just the 1 seed now that's going to get home field. So that's kind of interesting. But so yeah, I'm going to go with the Saints finally getting over the hump. I don't know if they can actually beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but that would be an amazing game to watch. I didn't think that they could beat the Colts either in 2009 with Peyton Manning and that team with Reggie Wayne and all those guys, and they somehow managed to do it. So that's it. All right. Any other questions?
Chiefs and Saints for you also?
Yeah. I'm going to go.
We promise this is not scripted.
I know that was not scripted at all, and probably really. I'm sure everyone's like, "Oh, great!" What do you guys think? Go ahead, and throw it in the chat. Throw in the chat whatever you think the Super Bowl is. What do you think the Super Bowl is going to look like? I mean, of course, it's going to be Saints, Chiefs, but if you had to pick another set of teams that might have a chance, what would those teams be? All right, Rage says, don't sleep on Killicam and the Pats. I feel something brewing. I feel like you're just trying to throw out hot takes, Rage. That's a hot take.
Didn't the strongest part about the Patriots last year was their defense being lights out, and didn't half of their defense opt out of the season this year?
That's another good point.
I don't think it matters what the offense does. The defense isn't there.
Oh, BC is looking for a New York style Super Bowl, Jets versus Giants. That would be something. That would be something. Nobody
play in the Meadowlands.
You put money on that game now and it happens, you're probably a zillionaire.
Man, yeah. I got a sports book where I work. I look up the odds on something like that.
I like this, Sean. COVID zombie apocalypse. Hey, honestly, we can't really count anything out. Can't count anything out at this point. All right, Jeff.
We'll have to have Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees play a game of Madden against each other for the Super Bowl championship.
Mahomes would light him up.
Something like that.
Like 60-0. All right, Jeff Collins says Ravens Seahawks. That's actually that.
Yeah,
that sounds.
I could see that.
Right. I think the Ravens are going to be a lot to handle. I think the big thing with Lamar Jackson is just is he going to be able to do that again, and also B, teams will adjust to him. I think teams will figure him out a little bit. And then C, can he stay healthy? I mean, that's always going to be the thing with a guy that runs a lot. He's prolific, but, it just makes me think of Mike Vick, because Mike Vick was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Vick did stuff that nobody was – I mean, he was insane, but it was just a matter of can he stay healthy? But even with how great Mike Vick was in his prime, there was teams that could game plan against him. The Falcons never got really that far in the playoffs. I think they did go to one Super Bowl, one NFC championship. Did they go to the Super Bowl, Mike Vick, once? Or was it the
no? That was with the year that they went against Denver. I believe Chris Chandler was still there.
Okay.
Well, they had Jamal Anderson, and Denver blew him out.
Yeah, so Mike, even with how good Mike Vick was, just could not get them over the hump. Now, granted, different teams, different eras, and all the rest of it. But all right, Brandon Kaiser's got Chiefs winning, NFC wide open. I'll go Bucks versus Chiefs. Chiefs win. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I really like Bruce Arians as a coach. I think that Tom Brady going to pair up with Bruce Arians, who you could argue that Bruce Arians is the best. He's like the QB whisperer. I mean, he's the best QB coach in the NFL, in my opinion, outside of maybe Sean Payton in New Orleans, maybe Sean McVay with the Rams and what he's done with Jared Goff too. But I mean, you could make a case for the Bucks. I mean, their defense, people don't think about this too. Their defense was top 5 in the NFL last year, and it's a young defense, so they're loaded. They're absolutely loaded. All right. Rage says Josh Gordon is back this year with Metcalf. That's 2 giant, speedy wide receivers. Yeah, that'll be. Is Josh Gordon suspended for a period of the season, or what's the story with Josh Gordon? I saw he got reinstated, but I didn't see if
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be willing to take over-unders on how many weeks Josh Gordon lasts.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, how many times can a guy get reinstated? I mean, I feel like he's been in and out of, suspended and whatever for 5 years. It's crazy. All right. JS said, has anyone said anything about my Arizona Cardinals yet? We moving on up. We actually did talk about Arizona earlier. Sorry, guys. We're 2 hours in, so apologies. This one's going long, but I love talking football, and Steve knows this stuff, really knows this stuff, so I wanted to get it in. Arizona, I don't know. Just the division is so brutal, and that's kind of what we were talking about. And I just don't see them doing it this year. Maybe in a couple years, maybe down the line a little bit. But 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, I think
in any other, to be honest, I think in any other NFC division,
yeah. Oh God,
Arizona would win it. I think they would win the
NFC East. They'd be 12-4.
They could probably win the South. With the Packers and Minnesota in them and the Bears. It's just a matter of being in a division that's just so brutal.
Yeah, Brandon said, oh, wait, I missed it. Devin White, linebacker for the Bucs, is a beast. He is. He was the 5th pick in the draft last year, I think. Yeah. Devin White, he was early.
Yeah, he was early.
He is an animal. Yeah, he's going to be good. He did okay last year, but he's going to get it. He's going to figure it out, and he's going to be a lot to handle. Yes, the Cardinals did beat the 49ers last year once. They didn't beat them twice, though, I don't believe. I think they just beat them once. Mm-hmm. You're right about that. Cards, guns, and collectibles. Can Lamar last a full season of getting hit that hard without a serious injury? I think that's the $1 million question. I mean, he was able to do it last year. It's just, can you do that year after year? And what does that look like after 10 years? I mean, Cam Newton might be like a comparison player to Lamar. He's big. He can run. They're not exactly the same guy, but similar style of play. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of can guys stay on the field? Phillip Rivers, comeback player of the year. I love it. I really like Phillip Rivers. I just don't – I think he's 38, 39. I just don't know if – now, he's playing with a great Colts defense, so maybe, just different environment. He's just, we'll see. What are your thoughts on Rivers, Steve?
I would think to be comeback player of the year, you would have to have a worse season than he had last year. I mean, he was noticed down that stretch last year. He threw a couple interceptions. He was just trying to do too much by himself. And he just, he was trying to do too much. He's so competitive. I can't think of a quarterback in the league that probably is competitive as Phillip Rivers. The guy wants to win, and he just hasn't either been in a situation or the stars haven't aligned for him. But I don't think his season was so bad last year that you can say he could be comeback player of the year, just because I don't think it warrants a comeback. Last year it was Ryan Tannehill. You're talking about a guy who was released, cut, a bust, come in as a backup, and all of a sudden was knocking the Patriots and the Ravens on a team knocking those guys out of the playoffs. So that was a comeback player of the year last year. A little different scenario than a guy who's been an all-pro, kind of struggled a little bit last year, but still was probably in the top half of the league in quarterbacks, just moving to a new team.
Yeah, both are big on Tyrod and Herbert. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert? Is he a franchise quarterback? I didn't watch enough of him in college. It's kind of like with Jordan Love as well. I'm kind of just, I saw his combine, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, Tom Brady, if you look at Tom Brady's combine, you're not saying that he's going to be the best of all time. What are your thoughts on Herbert?
As far as your prototypical quarterback, stature, size, arm strength, things like that, he was probably the best in the draft.
Okay.
The thing that his leadership skills is kind of what hurts him. All through college.
I'm going to grab my charger. My laptop's almost dead, so keep talking. I can hear you.
All right, yeah. All through college, it was kind of his leadership. He just didn't really show a lot of fire, the types of things that you need out of a quarterback sometimes. He was more so too soft-spoken. And actually in the Senior Bowl, he did really well, and that moved him up the draft boards almost to the point to where Miami was thinking about taking him over Tua. because he showed some leadership, but it had always been the fallback on him. He's probably a better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor is right now. I'm going to say that he is. I just don't think the Chargers want to rush him in.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers offensive line is a little suspect. They don't have a workhorse running back. They have Eckler back there as more of a scat guy. Yeah. Gordon is gone, so Justin Jackson is probably going to be that first and second down guy, and he's doesn't have a whole lot to offer, I don't think. And I just they don't want to rush Justin Herbert in. I think he can be a good quarterback though, just because all the intangibles are there, and I think he's intelligent. He just has to build up a little bit of competitive. Sometimes there's guys that are good, really good. They just don't have the desire.
Yeah. Well, and it's just tough to adjust. I mean, it's one thing to go against college players. It's another thing to win at the pro level where, guys are a lot bigger and it's just a lot more advanced. I think that jump from college to the NFL is big. I think it obviously is, because you see guys that absolutely light it up. I saw a comment earlier, a reference to Danny Werfel, for the Florida Gators, which obviously he was a smaller QB, but still, I mean, that was a guy who really lit it up in college at UF and Spurrier, and then did absolutely nothing in the NFL. And granted, he wasn't the prototypical size and all that, but he's one of a million examples of guys that just can't make it at the next level. All right. Any last thoughts, Steve? Anything that you wanted to cover? And it could be football related, or it could be just anything related, cards related. We can do whatever we want. This is our live stream. Talk about whatever you want.
There are a few guys that I kind of like, because I think the teams are going to be good, and I think that they're in good situations to be decent investments, because maybe they got a good price point, and the teams that they're on, they're either going to be competitive or they got something else exciting going on. I like Devin Singletary for the Bills. I think the Bills are going to be really good this year, and I think Singletary is going to be a big focal point of their offense. I don't know if Zach Moss will end up being their first and second down guy, but their exciting guy is Devin Singletary. I like Josh Jacobs. We didn't talk about him when we talked about the Raiders, but just the fact that even if the team isn't that good, because of the market that they're in now, being in Vegas, that just draws appeal to him. It's automatic appeal. And he was a great player last year, and he's from Alabama. So you can always invest in guys from certain colleges, because even if they don't pan out in the NFL, there's always college fans that will collect their stuff. Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, a lot of these colleges, you could have a guy bust in the NFL, still make money off of him because people collect their college. People love the colleges.
That's the point.
So that's usually a good backup plan. So a guy like Josh Jacobs, you can probably get his last year Prisms at a decent price. I haven't really looked, but I think he's only going to get better. And he's in Vegas, big market. So if other running backs start to go up, you'll see, it'll bring other guys like him up with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Jacobs too. I just hope Gruden doesn't run him into the ground, because he's obviously the workhorse back. Like Gruden wants to run him.
Yeah, and some of these guys are cheap enough where you may not even have to buy the Prisms. You might be able to go look up if there's contender ticket autos, because in football, like we were talking about, there's on-card ticket autos is the bread and butter. That's what everybody waits for every year. There's always a huge rookie list. So another thing to look for is guys who don't have many cards made, and just grab their contenders when they come out. We wish we would have did that with Taysom Hill a couple of years ago, and Raheem Mozart. Even if you buy them, you're buying them for mere dollars. You're buying them for $4, $5. I mean, Rashad Penny is a guy on Seattle who's hurt, but he's been absolutely explosive when he's been on the field. Yeah, I bought some of his contenders autos for $4 and $5. I spent like $20 on them. Yeah. If he's successful, if he comes back midseason, is successful, Seattle is as good as a team as we're talking about them being, and he's a factor in the playoffs. You got a card that you bought cheap. I mean, that's the way you got to do it right now, because the market is so expensive to get into. When I got in last year in January, it was cheap to get in. Like Mahomes was nothing. The guys that I'm talking about now for $5 and $10 is what you could bought guys like Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and stuff for at this time last year.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And you're right. It's very expensive at the top, but that's where I think the fun part of football cards right now is what we've been talking about with these ZAG players, because you can go back and there's, like Steve said, the contenders autos, that might be the only rookie card of that player. Like Taysom Hill, he wasn't supposed to do anything, so he doesn't have any cards. He doesn't have a Prism rookie. His only rookie is a contenders auto, which makes it so if the guy pans out, it's even more of a rare, card. So it's all speculation, but it's fun. It's definitely fun. And then, of course, the added suspense of this season is the whole, now we're not just buying QBs. Now we're buying running backs and wide receivers. What about defensive players? I zagged. I showed it in my last mail day or one of the other ones. I picked up Marcus Davenport Prism autos for like $3 or $4. Mm-hmm. And, Marcus Davenport, if you're not a Saints fan, you might not even know who he is. He's the guy that we traded up for. We didn't pick Lamar Jackson. We picked Marcus Davenport. all the analysts thought we were taking Lamar Jackson to take over for Breeze, and we did not do that. We took Davenport. Don't even get me started there. But anyway, I picked up Davenport because this has got to be his year. Like, he's got to break out. And then if this is also the year in cards where defensive players are getting more hobby love, then that could be kind of a fun zag. And I've looked at that for other defensive players too. And it's just, and then I thought about it too. It's like, if I get stuck with this card, I like the player. I'm a Saints fan, and it's this Prism auto. It's a cool card, So.
And quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks on good teams. Our backup quarterbacks on exciting teams or popular teams is also another good, little bit of a reach. You don't ever hope for an injury, so it's not like you're sitting on cards hoping someone gets hurt. But if someone gets hurt, just like in fantasy, you handcuff your running back. So buy a couple cards of a backup quarterback. I got a couple. For example, I grabbed Andy Dalton contenders autos. Like $20, 9.5 with an auto 10. If something happens to Dak, he's the starter for the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't get any better than that. This is Marcus Mariota, same thing, 9.5 contenders auto ticket. If something happens to Derek Carr, he's starting for the Raiders, who we just talked about with the big market. He doesn't even have to step foot on the field. If Derek Carr was to get hurt at practice on a Monday, and Marcus Mariota was going to start that following Sunday, you sell that card before Sunday even gets here, because the hype builds it up, and then you don't risk him going out there and flopping. That's just a take on that.
It's going to be fun this season to kind of see how this plays out. Because like we said last year, I mean, literally, like McCaffrey, these running backs would have monsters. Derrick Henry lit the world on fire last year, and his cards did nothing. They did not move. They did not move. So and now we've got all these people that are like, okay, we got the running backs and receivers. It's like fantasy football. Yeah. And I'm so curious to see what happens with it. I want to see. I think it will be better. I mean, I think it will trickle down and there will be more movement than last season, because there has to be more movement than last season, because there wasn't any movement really.
I remember looking at McCaffrey Prism PSA 10s anywhere between $40 and $60. The sales were going left and right this time last year, even mid-season when he was putting up number one fantasy running back numbers. And I didn't even buy him myself. I fell into the it's quarterbacks only. And like I said, it was just one day I happened to be riding in the car for a long time, and I had nothing else to do but research. And I saw where McCaffrey Prisms had hit $300, and I couldn't believe it. I was looking at this card 4 months ago when it was $60. I was like, why didn't I? Like I said, I don't always pick them all right. I miss them, But I try to learn from my mistakes. And so I was like, man, this is going to happen. I was just thinking to myself, it's going to happen. I had hardly no YouTube videos out, so I shot a video in a cabin with no lights or anything, just because I wanted to try to get the information out there that I had saw. Because I just try to share the information.
I remember that one. I think I remember that video. It's like, man, this looks like a scary movie.
Yeah, I just do it because I was trying to be out there because I was like, man, if I wait till my vacation is over and don't say anything, people might miss an opportunity. And I'm not all about just trying to flip money for myself. I'm trying to put information out there for people. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to set my phone up here and just film. So it was the first time I actually talked on camera, looking at me, and I just was like, well, guys, this is what I saw. And that's when I bought the Optic Hollow, Christian McCaffrey, bought a couple other items, and I didn't go heavy on it because it was risky, but I got enough items to be satisfied with what I'm going to make.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I think too, if you think about which players are going to have a collector base, it's kind of like which fan bases, have, a lot of, football cards, they are picking up steam, and there's a lot of football card collectors in general. It's not as big as baseball and it's not as big as basketball, but there's a lot of football card collectors. And if you think about which players they're going to want to own, the actual, the only, the people that are really just collecting, that are not looking to flip, not looking to do anything like that, just long-term hold for everything type folks. It's like which players are exciting and which teams are they on, and and the NFL is such an established league; they've got established fan bases. So that's something that I probably should have thought about a year ago with a lot of this stuff. But again, you're pulled in so many directions with basketball cards and football and baseball and everything else. But
another good card to look at, and not a player in particular, but a card brand, is the Select field level.
Oh yeah.
You know how Select has the concourse, the premier level or whatever, and they have the field leveled. Well, if you look at the basketball cards, courtside, which is the alternate in basketball, is called courtside. In football, it's called field level. Well, the courtside in basketball sell for Prism prices. Sometimes even more, especially on like Lucas and stuff like that. In football, that hasn't happened yet. It's still Prism Optic, and the Select field level has not caught up to the market yet. So that's where I've been buying my Alvin Kamaras. I haven't bought many McCaffreys, but Alvin Kamaras, and who else was I looking at? Alvin Kamara sticks out in my head just because I've been buying some of his stuff. But field levels haven't caught up to that Prism Optic type thing yet. And remember, the field levels was only like 2 per box. Yeah, and you weren't even guaranteed to get a rookie. So if you get a rookie on a field level, look at some of the quarterbacks from 2018, like Lamar Jackson field level, the Josh Allen field level. Those cards are through the roof. So it hasn't carried over into the position players yet. Everybody's still focusing on Prism. People are starting to look at Optic because that's always the natural progression. Meanwhile, these field level selects are dirt cheap right now in comparison, and they have the potential to be a Prism price because we've seen it in basketball.
That's a good point.
Much more limited print run, and you're better off buying a Prism raw because quality control on Select. Quality control on Select is 10 times better than it is on Prism because it's a hobby only. It's not as mass produced like retail. So safe buys, if you're looking to get raw cards graded, is always Select. They always look better. They're always a easier grade, safer buy.
What's your opinion on the debate of, and there's varying opinions on this, and do you think that football cards can catch up, with this season, let's just say, because the card market has really kind of exploded over the last 6 months, but can it catch up to basketball cards or baseball cards? Now, I don't know about baseball cards just because you have probably a longer history. But as far as basketball cards go, I always hear it's like, look, this is a global sport. There's global interest. And I do understand that. But the NFL is the most popular sport in America as far as revenue goes. There's not another, the NFL brings in more revenue than the NBA and the MLB, so from that standpoint of just the fact that there's just, an insane amount of football fans in the U.S., does that trickle down to football cards, to make it just on par with basketball? Not necessarily bigger, but,
I think with newer, like super modern stuff, it is. I don't know if vintage has quite caught up or older stuff has quite caught up, because if you look at 2019 and the best rookie in football is Kyler Murray, and you look at basketball from this year, and you say the best rookie, whether you want to go with Zion or Ja. We know Ja is technically the rookie of the year. The highest price was Zion, though. And you look at the high price of a Zion Prism PSA 10 in comparison to a Kyler Murray PSA 10. Kyler Murray's actually drawing more money. Kyler Murray PSA 10s, I think, have hit $800, even $900 in some cases, where Zion's back down to $500 or $600. And Ja still has not even seen $500 numbers. So, if you're talking about the number one rookies from this year's class, NFL is actually selling for more than even what the NBA players were selling for at their peak. Older players, if you want to go back to, there's nobody in football that's going to reach Jordan prices, I don't think. A Tom Brady card could, but that's only because it may have an auto on it. See, Jordan was out before these autos were out. Could you imagine? Okay, so you're looking at a Tom Brady playoff contenders auto ticket and a PSA grade, drawing massive amounts of money. Could you imagine if Jordan had an auto rookie back in 1986? So it's hard to compare those types of two cards of two of the greatest of all time from the sport. Basketball does draw in more international appeal, but you got to look more of the bigger dollars is here in the U.S., and we've kind of seen that with soccer. That's why soccer cards got driven up more pricier than stickers, because the bulk of the money and finance going into soccer was from the States, and the people in the States wanted cards, whether it was right or wrong to collect cards over stickers. That's just the way that it was. Yeah. And let's see if, you're talking about Jerry Rice, Dan Marino, so a Dan Marino PSA 10 from 1984, that's always the set I go back to. I'm a huge Dan Marino fan. Yeah. Elway's in that set. I remember that draft. I'm that old. So
they're about $2,200. The PSA 10 Marinos and a 10 are about $2,200 right now.
Yeah, they're about $2,200. And you're talking about a guy that, and even John Elway, I think he sells for a little slightly more, actually. Yeah. But you're talking about two of the greatest ever at $2,200. LeBron James Topps PSA 9 sells for that much. So
it was undervalued in comparison. Yeah.
And the crazy part is I look at PSA 9s nowadays, and I kind of have a meter that I like to gauge. And you can look at Marino PSA 9s, get them for less than $200, I think. So it's like, that's an underpriced card, because you're talking about that's mint. Like I was saying earlier, that's still mint. I don't care if it's a gem mint or not. A 9 on a 1984 card that was, most of them were mint, miscut and had ink defects on them, just weren't produced, with technology like today. Got gum stains on them. Anything could happen to those cards. And even the stock that they were made on was just cardboard stock, was bad. And a PSA 9 is $200 and some dollars. You kidding me?
I've been going heavy on 9s. And I don't know if people consider that. A lot of people don't consider that vintage, but that 84 top set is a great example. I picked up a Howie Long rookie card it's a PSA.
Oh, yeah.
I got it for $45. It's a mint card from '84, and it's a Hall of Fame player, Howie Long. Yeah. So I've been looking at a lot of that stuff. I mean, if you buy 9s, there's value all over the place.
That '84 was an iconic draft, and you will see ESPN top 10s that come out today in 2020. So we're talking almost 36 years ago, and that draft still gets referenced all the time. The quarterbacks that came in there, whether or not it was the fact that Dan Marino fell all the way to 27, which was unbelievable. Elway getting taken number 1 and refusing to sign with the Colts and actually going to play in the Yankees baseball system. And then the guys in between, Howie Long and Darryl Green, who was one of the better defensive backs of all time for the Redskins.
Eric Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson, yeah. I mean, it's just that draft is always going to be talked about. It's a shame that that's not considered an iconic set. Me personally, because that's my age group, to me that is an iconic set. I love that set. I love those cards. I love those players. That's what got me collecting. I'll never forget that set just has sentimental value to me, if anything.
Yeah, that's what 89 score is for me, and that's what cards, guns and collectibles he mentions there too. It's and if you just look at how many Hall of Famers are in that 89 score set, how many are in the 84 top set. I mean, it's absolutely loaded.
Awesome draft class. Even going back to 88 tops takes me back because chasing the Bo Jackson rookies. Not so much now because, Bo's career, what happened to it. He's still a sports icon, regardless if he had the numbers over longevity or not. Everybody who knows his name.
Yeah.
But I just remember buying tons of 88 tops at the pharmacy, where you could buy them at the pharmacy for 40 cents. And
yeah, I picked up one of those 88 tops Bows just in a PSA 8, not for just for the PC, because it was like 20, it was like $15-20, but I was like, I just want to have one of those cards,
I mean, I remember buying 86, 87 Fleer basketball wax.
You bought them?
Yeah, I remember buying it was a department store called Roses. I don't know if it's nationwide or if it's just an East Coast department store, but it was called Roses.
Oh, wow.
They always had 86, 87 Fleer basketball wax. Man, I busted that stuff. That SGC reveal that I did, my most recent one that had some 86, 87 Fleer basketball in it, that was all pack pulled. That was all from my PC from when I was a kid.
You kept it?
I didn't even know I still had the stuff. My mom heard that I got back into card collecting. He was like, well, you still got a box of cards at my house out in the shed. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. And I pulled it out, and I had a row of 86, 87 Fleer basketball in it about this long.
Oh, my God.
And I went through it. There was no Jordan in there. I remember pulling the Jordan out of that stack. So that wasn't in the box, but I had Karl Malone, Barkley, Isaiah Thomas, Patrick Ewing, you name it. I had them all. And I sent a bunch of them into SGC recently and got them back. And actually, my Olajuwon and my Barkley came back as 8s.
Nice.
And I've had these cards since I was a kid.
Wow.
So it's not even like I spent any money on them. I spent 40 cents or 35 cents on the pack and spent $10 to send it to SGC. And I got it slabbed up. And now these aren't cards I want to sell, even though it's almost 100% profit, because these are cards that I just wanted. Like my Karl Malone came back as a 7.5, but I really didn't care. I just wanted the case on it,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. I mean, that's amazing that they came back 7s and 8s. I mean,
yeah, to me too. I remember carrying the Jordan around with me. So I knew that wasn't going to be in the box. It's not like I was looking through there being like, oh, I hope the Jordan's in here. I remember carrying that around with me when I was young, and I don't know, it got beat up and things like that. Actually, I do have it. It's actually locked up in like a fireproof box in my room, but it's not in any kind of condition to send in. The only reason I would send it in was to have it slabbed and authenticated. But
if anything, just to keep it encased.
Yeah, but see, I know that it's real. I don't need somebody to say, "Hey, this is real," because I pulled this out of a pack myself, and I don't want to send it a grading company and risk not getting my own card back.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and you probably have more sentimental value than you care about.
Yeah, it's a card that would never hit any kind of sales for me. I'm not, a desperate situation or anything. It would just be to have it, and I pull it out every now and then just because I'll have a friend and I'll say I got a Jordan rookie card and they won't believe me.
Hold on,
here it is. It's in this big brick. It's actually in a big screw down brick. I'm probably actually scared to take it out. I don't know if it'll fall apart but yeah, I have it. It's just I just have it sitting.
That's amazing, man. That is amazing. How many of those do you think that are, I mean, just from like how many they printed or whatever? Obviously, we just saw that SGC gold go for $400,000. How many people are, or like how that case of 86 Fleer pops out of nowhere.
Oh, I know, right?
For $2 million, almost $2 million. I mean, do you think there's more like that out there that are just, I just wonder about that stuff. I think just collectibles in general, it's kind of like you never really know. It's all about supply and demand, and sometimes you don't know what that supply is until it's unearthed.
And you don't know where that stuff will turn up. I got back in the cards and never even crossed my mind that my old cards might be laying around somewhere. Actually, I got the box right in front of me. I didn't know that I did, but I do. There's my Olajuwon right there.
Nice. That's amazing. Because SGC,
there's the Barkley.
I mean, they're tough on vintage grading.
Oh, SGC is real tough. I have a feeling that if I send these to PSA, I probably got 8 5s at least. Wow. But yeah, Karl Malone was my favorite growing up. I like Karl Malone. That's a 7.5.
That's
For some reason, I don't even know why. I just like Karl Malone. You know, all my friends would be outside playing basketball and taking jumpers, and they would be like, Jordan. And every time I would do it, I'd be like, the mailman. So
he was so consistent with his baseline jumper.
yeah.
You know, like he was so consistent. And then he had like his whole routine at the foul line and everything. Man, those were – you know what I saw was trending is like Manute Bol rookie cards are going up, I guess, because of, you know, his son Bol
Yeah.
the world on fire.
I have those in that 86, 87 Fleer stack that I was talking about out there.
I just thought that was funny because Manute Bol was not that was not a graceful player to watch. I mean, he wasn't a bad player. I think he played in the league for 10 years. So you can't be that bad at playing the NBA for 10 years. I mean, he was decent, but yeah, you're just like, what? Oh man.
Two basketball cards that are a little older that I absolutely love right now are the 81 Topps Magic and Bird. Not the rookie. The rookie is the 80-81. So this would just be considered an 81 or an 81-82.
Yeah.
So it would be considered a second year. However, it's the first card that they have by themselves.
Right. That's a good point.
The first Larry Bird card where he's not on a three-piece perforated card. You know, it's an actual card. It's not like a team's leaders or whatever like those cards were. And it's just a good-looking photo of him. He's really young-looking. He's looking directly at the camera. He's got his warm-up suit on. And it's a tough grade. Those 81 Topps are not easy. And I'm looking at those cards all day long right now. I'm actually in a negotiation with somebody for an 8, but I really like to get a 9. I've been doing pop report research on them and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I want one. And the 86, 87 Fleer, just because it's an iconic set. I can see just the fact that it's an iconic set, whether it's a rookie card or not, making prices of certain guys, even like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even though it's long from his rookie, an 86, 87 Fleer of his, I could see holding some good value just because of the set, the iconic set.
Yeah, I saw I was doing some research and I saw like Dr. J, 86 Fleers and like a PSA 8 were only like $50 or $60, which I was surprised. And granted, yeah, it's not like first year, second year. It's like 14 year. You know, it's like rookie 72 Topps. I mean, it's like a 14-year card. But like you said, it's an iconic set. So I think that any great player in those sets is probably worth a look. Any 86 Fleer. I'd love to get, maybe it's, Daryl Dawkins or somebody that's, not going to be too expensive, but just to have a couple of those, just to have, just to be able to look at, I think would be awesome.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch. I got some commons. I got guys that were good at one time, but forgotten about, like Buck Williams and Xavier McDaniel, those guys. It's all considered like they're rookies. I have all those as well as pretty much all the superstars. I've got the Chris Mullen, too. I got the Chris Mullen. I was excited about that one. And the Dominique Wilkins.
Mullen was awesome. Yeah, I think of Xavier McDaniel when he played for the Knicks and they were up against the Bulls and he got in Jordan's face. I remember watching like the Michael Jordan documentary, Come Fly With Me, or, one of those, kind of like the hype videos for the Bulls back then. Yeah. And they always talk about that Knicks series where the Knicks were just trying to basically like foul them to death, trying to beat them, kind of like the Pistons did.
Oh, yeah. The John Starks Knicks team.
John Starks and Xavier McDaniel was on those teams.
Had Charles Oakley been moved to that team then?
Yeah, Charles.
Because he was a Bull and they traded him to the Knicks.
Yeah, that Knicks team was ferocious. I mean, they were good. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, we are now pushing the 2.5 hour mark. This has been kind of a marathon, but I've really had a blast hanging out with you, talking
it's fun.
And talking cards in general. But for those, we have still, I can't believe there's still 33 people, I guess, that are watching. I don't know. You guys, thanks for hanging around. That's
hardcore.
2.5 hours of looking at our mugs. That's something, man. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. And guys, we appreciate all the chat and everything. We're going to try to do these more often. But yeah, we really had a lot of fun doing it. Steve, thank you very much for joining. I always like kicking out, throwing ideas back and forth, and we'll make sure to do it, every maybe once a month or every few weeks or something, get on and do it. I don't know if I can do 2.5 hours every time, but this was awesome. So thanks.
It's always fun. It was super fun last time, man. I was looking forward to it tonight.
Yeah, we'll have to do it. Maybe we'll do it once a week eventually, I mean, who knows? We'll see how it goes. But guys, thanks again for joining in. Steve, Thanks again, man. I'll talk to you probably soon. So we'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
All right, guys.